This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
What's going on, everyone? I hope you had a great weekend. Welcome to a packed Monday edition of Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Andrew Paterson with you, soon to be joined by Michael Remis and Connor Rabchak. Congratulations to the Manitoba Moose. They came back after dropping game one of their best of three, won both on the weekend, and they are now set for the Grand Rapids Griffins, the number one team in the American Hockey League. That series is going to start on Saturday and Sunday here in Winnipeg with 2 p.m. games. We'll break down the first round for the Moose, some of the top performances from the clincher yesterday. Jeff Hamilton's going to join us a little later on from the Winnipeg Free Press. We'll hit some hockey topics, maybe a little bit of football as well. And we will, of course, take a trip around the National Hockey League Stanley Cup playoffs with former Stanley Cup winning GM Neil Smith, who, of course, does the NHL Wraparound podcast. And a little bit later on, to wrap up NFL Draft Weekend, our pal Josh Frey from the Winnipeg Free Press is going to stop in. Was a fun afternoon yesterday at Canada Life Center. Dom DiVincentis, who came in for game two and got the win, got the game three start, I thought was phenomenal. We'll talk about this. Connor was at the game as well. A really strong team game. And listen, credit to Milwaukee. They started to up the shot totals, kind of like what the Moose did after they got down in game number one. But Dom was able to close the door. I thought a massive game for David Gustafsson. He assisted on both of the goals. Walker Dewar and Sam Fagimo getting the goals for the Moose yesterday. So there will be more playoff hockey in Winnipeg. Great for the team, certainly for the young guys to get more experience, and they've got their hands full next to up with the Grand Rapids Griffins, and of course, an absolutely wild weekend of playoff hockey, capped off by an incredibly controversial end to the Oilers-Ducks game last night. We will get into all of that. Listen, just before we start the program, shout out to all you podcast listeners joining us today. Thanks so much for making us a part of yours. And welcome to everyone with us live on YouTube today. Hit that thumbs up button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Also want to thank the WST sponsors that make the show happen each and every day. Of course, our partners at CoolBet Canada, Chud's Power Sports, Clean Line Plumbing, Heating, and Electrical. The Tri-Hospital Lottery. Get your tickets today, folks. TriHospitalDream.com, as well as Uptown Alley, Rowley's Transfer, St. Vital Dental Center, Manitoba Building Trades, and the Manitoba Federation of Labor, Manitoba Battery, Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge, Breezy Bend, Royal Sports, Boston Pizza, Little Brown Jug, the great people at Princess Auto, and of course we'll get to a why not question of the day for Not Autocorp at Waverly and McGillivray. Michael, Connor, get in here. Boys, how was the weekend? Remo, I'll start with you. What's going on?
Yeah, I'm just loving this playoff hockey. What a great quadruple header yesterday. But also, I threw the Moose game on after that Buffalo game got out of hand, and before the Montreal game, or the Colorado game, I guess. The Moose game was awesome. So a lot of hockey for me yesterday. This weather, it's okay, I guess. We don't have snow. I hear it's pretty bad in Edmonton, Calgary. So I'll take it, Huss. I'm feeling good.
Connor, it could be worse. It's not bad outside, but if you're a hockey fan, I mean, the only way it's better is if your team is playing in the Stanley Cup playoffs. We don't need to belabor that point. We'll talk about the Jets situation a little bit later on, I'm sure, with Jeff. But I'll tell you what, for the Manitoba Moose, especially considering the way Game 1 went at home, I think a lot of people were prepared for another quick, disappointing end to this Moose season. But 2 big wins on the weekend, Friday, and then, of course, the clincher yesterday, and this team moves on. Great for the young players, great for the team overall, and I thought they showed a lot in buckling down, playing a great team game. Everyone really contributed in both games on the weekend.
Absolutely. And, Dom DiVincentis after the game he kept saying that it was a tandem win, him and Thomas Milic, but we can sit here and give Dom DiVincentis a lot of credit for coming in as the goaltender in those last 2 games and playing fantastic. And guys like Walker Duer, Samuel Fagemo, both getting the goals yesterday. Fagemo had a glorious chance in the first period that he hit the post on, Nathan McKinnon-esque, if you will. And then Walker Duer had that goal early on in the game, a awesome snipe, but it was at the end of a very long shift. Like, the Moose came out yesterday, and I was so impressed with their first 10 minutes and really their first period overall. They dominated play, and it should have really been 3 or 4-0, but they stuck with it. DiVincentis did have to make some huge saves, especially in that second period. He made a beautiful sliding glove save that the Manitoba Moose posted on their socials. It was awesome. And hey, they buckled it down in the third. There were some tense moments for sure, but their penalty kill goes perfect in the series. I've said on this show, and we've made lots about their power play being the worst in the AHL this year, the Moose, but their penalty kill stepped up and killed off everything in that series. So great for these young players to experience that. And now they're going to get a full best of 5 against the best team in the AHL, the Grand Rapids Griffins, and that'll be a very tall task, but I'm excited to watch it.
Yeah, and we're going to do we'll do lots on the on the series coming up this week. Kind of nice actually for them to get a bunch of practice time to get ready for the first 2 games, which at home. If you're wondering why the Moose starting at home, it is a best of 5, but to eliminate and reduce travel, they start with the 2 games in the lower seeded team and then go to Grand Rapids for what would be game 3, 4, and 5. So it's absolutely crucial that the Moose get off to a good start. Here's the schedule, as you can see. Saturday, 2 p.m., Canada Life Center. Sunday, 2 p.m., Canada Life Center. And then the series will shift to Grand Rapids for game 3 on Wednesday. And if necessary, Friday and Saturday, 6 p.m. Central Time, Moose and the Grand Rapids Griffins. So tickets are on sale now. We'll see maybe if we have that same link, which we can hook our WST listeners up for a bit of a deal on tickets. But I would certainly suggest people get out. Yesterday afternoon, Connor, was a really fun night, afternoon of hockey. I mean, obviously the stakes were high. It's a deciding game. It was a real nice crowd. I mean, you had a mix of, big time, hardcore Moose fans that were there behind the team. Tons of kids there as well. It was a lot of fun. And I think a big reason why the vibe was as high as it was because of the way the team played really throughout the 60 minutes. You mentioned the start. Even when Milwaukee was creating more in the second half, I thought the Moose did a great job in their own end, clearing pucks, getting it out. And Brad Lambert has had some tough luck with iron in this series. Another game where he almost made it 3-0. And then, of course, one gets by Dom DiVincentis, and he had to sweat out the kind of final 3 minutes. But I thought that the last 3 minutes was a perfect example of what this team does very, very well. They may be offensively challenged at times, but man, does everybody know their role, and they were all committed to doing everything they could to get it across the finish line and move on to the next round.
Yeah, and after the game, Mark Morrison, the head coach of the Manitoba Moose, was asked about that defensive structure, their ability to play in their own end. And he basically talked about how, that's the Jets system. That's what we're playing as an organization, is the Winnipeg Jets system, which is packing the house, making sure all the shots are coming from the outside. You're getting in lanes, blocking shots. And when the Jets are at their best, maybe not this past season, but the couple years before that, that's what you saw, is a team that could protect the middle of the ice very, very well. And the Moose picking up a big series win. Their first since, when is it? 2018, I believe I saw the AHL post, their first playoff series win. So, great for the Moose to finally get one. They had a couple of series, past couple of years against Texas. They had lost. Milwaukee, the team they beat in this series, they had lost to them in the past couple of years as well in some playoff series. But good for them. And Mark Morrison, like you said, Huss, teaching that defensive structure that the Jets are teaching up in the NHL. They're bringing it down to the AHL, and you saw it on full display, especially late in that game.
You saw that mention of Dom DiVincentis, ironically, number 50 with 50 saves on the weekend, only allowing 2 in. And Reem Connor was down in the room afterwards. Let's quickly hear from Dom DiVincentis. Here is the winning goalie on the big series win for his team.
It's an unbelievable feeling. We put a full 3 games together there, and we gave them our best, and they gave us theirs. But we're the better team, so the better team usually comes on top. And now our focus is the next round here. We got to get ready for GR because they're going to be a battle. But I think we got everybody here.
Nice was it to see that start from your club. I mean, right from the beginning of that puck drop, your team was on it. Did you just see that from the net?
Absolutely. I thought that was, like I said last game, that's a full 60 minutes we just put in there. And from the forwards to the D, like I said, made my job a lot easier tonight. And, blocking shots and forechecking hard, finishing every check, and we're getting chances. And, with that crowd out there, we just brings a boost of energy for us. So let's keep rolling into next week.
A great performance by the squad from the goaltender out and the crowd yesterday at Canada Life Center. And it was interesting. Connor, I don't know why, maybe I was naive to this, but, Milic was the MVP of the team this year, although they both did play quite a bit. I didn't leave game number 1 thinking that, they're going to make a goaltending change for sure. But I think considering where both of these young guys are in the career, they both sort of deserved an opportunity to play. And man, did Dom make the most of his opportunity with, only allowing 1 goal in both of his starts.
And Huss, think of this is life of a goalie, but you haven't been playing for a week. Hey, here you go. Our season's on the line. You're getting the nod tonight. That's tough, man. That's really tough for a goalie where it's all about rhythm and seeing shots and feeling confident and all this stuff. You've been sitting for a week and because your team was off a few days and you didn't even get the start in game 1. And then now all of a sudden your season's on the line and the team is turning to you. And I don't know if we have the clip. We can get to it if we do. But Dom DiVincentis after the game was asked about a moment late, maybe the last minute, 30 seconds, where he took a shot up high, kind of caught him in kind of the collarbone area that didn't catch any padding. And he said it stung him. And he had a great quote. He said, well, no pain, no gain. It's the playoffs. You got to battle through it. So he has that attitude where he's battling through stuff. He never quits on a play. And he's a fun goalie to watch. He's got some great rebound control when he's on his game. And when a goalie is confident, you can tell. And you could tell that DiVincentis was feeling it yesterday.
Well, and you know what? I mean, I think Milwaukee was feeling it too. I mean, they really needed to up their shot total, and they were shooting from everywhere. I mean, from the dressing room, that play that you mentioned that caught him high was basically from the goal line. And listen, they were trying to do everything they could to get a dirty one. They were playing desperate hockey, but the Moose were good. Here is that clip. There's more to it as well, but here's kind of Dom talking about the win and getting the opportunity to go for his squad in game 2 and 3 on the weekend, both wins.
I'm so grateful that I got the opportunity, and Millie played fantastic in game 1 too, and that's just that's a dual win right there. That's not one person doing better than the other. That's a full dual tandem, working hard, our team. Obviously, I'm grateful that I got the opportunity to play, but the most important thing is, just got to get the results and keep rolling with them.
Take us through that final minute and a bit. It looked like you were smarting a bit. Did that shot from the side or almost behind the net maybe catch you in a spot and sting you a little bit?
Yeah, it's playoff hockey though, so you're gonna get bumps and bruises, and you got to battle through it. And that's when you got to put your heart into it, and forget about the pain, because no pain, no gain. So you gotta work hard and just gotta battle through the bumps and bruises.
We see you go for these skates lots of times after the whistle. Is that a thing you're doing where you're just staying in your own head a little bit, or maybe just what's going through your mind when you go through those little solo skates after the whistles?
Just preparing for the next shot, next save, and stay away from all the rough stuff. Let our D and our forwards handle that, and get in my own little routine and just follow through with that.
Honor that Mike brought up those skates because he was doing it all the time. Part of it, and I think the key bit was at the end of his answer, is that every time he covered the puck, there was about 8 dudes within 6 inches of him, and it was just time to get out of the fray.
Yeah, and he gets out of there quicker than any goalie I've ever seen. Like there are some goalies like Marc-Andre Fleury comes to mind as a guy that like when the scrum's happening, he just bolts to the corner and just like skates away. But man, he covers the puck and he's out of there. Like he's not even waiting for this scrum to develop. He's just skating to the corner. And yeah, like goalies are a creature of habit. I just talked about how it's all about rhythm and confidence. He's staying in the zone. He does this. He covers the puck. He goes for a skate. Like when a goalie's feeling it, they're doing all these little things that after the game, thought it was a great question. Like, yeah, is that something you always do? Or are you just kind of in the zone? And obviously with the playoffs, there's more scrums in front of him. So more reason to do that.
You know, Reem, it'll be interesting to see how things go. I don't know how they do anything but start DiVincentiis in game number 1 at home. But I think I would imagine that Mark Morrison kind of handles the goalies in this series like he did in the first one. I think both of them will get in. Like, barring Dom just getting on a heater and then winning these games, you'll keep riding the hot goaltender. But we will see Milic again, I would imagine, in this series. And pretty cool to see the way they support each other. I mean, Dom very clearly saying, hey, you know, we're both a big part of it, even though I was the guy that got the 2 wins.
Yeah, you'll get their games played this year. Milic 41, DiVincentiis 34. And, you know, if you're of the opinion, hey, let's just keep playing how we did in the playoffs in the regular season, yeah, keep, you know, splitting them. Why change and give a guy a bigger workload than the one that he's been used to? Now, they do have a lot of time off here in between. Again, I was expecting like a midweek series, but hey, I'll take the Saturday afternoon. Gives them some time to let everyone know, hey, come on down to Canada Life Center. I'm looking forward to bringing my son on Saturday. He's fired up. But I imagine that, you know, Milic will probably get started. He was the team MVP this season. You know, he did have slightly better numbers than Dom, but we know both are pretty solid goalies. And I think that's one thing the Moose have done, and Jets have done, you know, since they came back, is produce, you know, good goalies. Seems like no matter who's been in there, you go Hellebuyck, Hutchinson with the Ice Caps, Eric Comrie, DiVincentiis, and now Milic as well. They've done a pretty good job getting these goalies integrated.
You know, Connor, one guy that I want to bring up just before we talk NHL is our old buddy, as I referred to him yesterday on Twitter, the real Gus Bus. Because David Gustafsson, I think, got dealt a pretty tough hand this year. They signed Jonathan Taves. He comes back. They give him his number, which I'm sure that was his blessing. I'm not suggesting he was choked about that. But was sent to the Moose and was sort of an afterthought for pretty much the entire season. Now, listen, I'm not suggesting David Gustafsson is a top 6 guy, but I'd be lying if I wasn't watching that game, watching him dominate yesterday, thinking even if you put him actually wherever Gus Nyquist was all season long, like on the second line playing the wing, where would this team be? I say that somewhat tongue-in-cheek, but I thought Gus was an absolute beast yesterday. He set up both goals, and like I don't know what the face-off numbers were, but he basically won every single time he was in the dot, and he was on the ice for the majority of the key draws and the big moments late in the game. What a game by David Gustafsson.
For sure. And he brought that forechecking element multiple times, Huss. The goal that he set up to Foggy Mo with the snipe was awesome. He was great in that game. And you see that relentless forechecking. That's what he brought to the Winnipeg Jets fourth line and what they wanted to see from him the last number of years. And yeah, it is kind of odd that he kind of just fell out of favor this year. And he was a guy that mid-season, when you were looking at the Manitoba Moose and thinking, oh, if they were to call someone up, who would, you know, like Foggy Mo and Dewar maybe don't know the system as much. They're new here. Gustafsson has been here the past number of years. He's a guy that would exactly know what to do, what's expected of him if he were to come up. But yeah, I mean, he was one of the Moose's highest scorers really all season long. He's their leading scorer in the playoffs right now with 3 points in 3 games, a goal and 2 assists. And he's still bringing that defensive acumen that you mentioned, Huss, the faceoffs, winning battles below the goal line. Whether that's resulting in offense for the Moose or preventing chances against, David Gustafsson has been as advertised. He's been great.
And you know what? I don't know why I was always assuming that he was a UFA at the end of this year, but he's actually an RFA. And now listen, I mean, we'll see how that all plays out. He's arbitration eligible, so they'll have to give him an offer. Like, depending on how things work, who's back, who's not, specifically with Taves. I mean, if Taves doesn't come back, you have that opening. And if they do want to bring Morgan Barron higher up in the lineup, maybe there is a spot for David Gustafsson next year. I'll tell you, he has not done himself any disservice with what he's done this season with the Moose, and certainly the way that he's playing right now. We'll have plenty of time to talk about this series as we get closer to Sunday. Saturday and Sunday, we'll get a few of the players on, hopefully David Gustafsson being one of them, on the program coming up in the next couple of days. All right, we're going to talk to Neil Smith in a few minutes, but I got to get your guys' thoughts on last night and the end of that quadruple header. The Ducks win in OT in a controversial fashion. Remis, I'll start with you. Goal or no goal? Did they get it right? What did you think?
I think they got it right that the puck crossed the line, but I think the process was completely wrong. I don't know how they called it a goal on the ice. They didn't see it. They huddled and called it a goal. And from every review that we've seen in the past, even if you think it may have been a goal, they've required very conclusive evidence. And I think we can assume that it was probably past the line, but just the way that it's done in the past, every other review, this is not what we've seen from the NHL. So I think they got it right, but I think the process was wrong, and it could have easily been not a goal, and they could have looked like idiots.
Connor, I will tell you, I just spent an hour with our friends in Edmonton on EST on the Lock Shop, and I can tell you that there are some people resigned that it probably was the right call, but a lot of people saying what Remis says. How was that called a goal on the ice from where the referees were? Because honestly, I think that if they called it no goal and look back there, I think it's probably difficult to overturn, even though I do think in the end they probably got it right.
Yeah, I fully agree with what Remis said. Like, I think it's a goal. You can look at the shot of Jari's skate and where the puck is, and do the mental math and be like, okay, this puck I think is in. But the process in which they went, you see the replay, the refs are nowhere near, and then they huddle, and it's like, oh, the fans are cheering and the players are cheering, so we'll just call it a goal on the ice and then go to review. But then you go to review and you go, well, the call on the ice was a goal, but we have nothing conclusive, so we just have to call it a goal. Like, I know Remis tweeted about the Cole Perfetti play last year, where we were all saying on this show, if they call that a goal on the ice, I'm sure it gets called a goal. If they call it no goal on the ice, then I'm sure, like, they just didn't have anything conclusive. So to have this discussion with no ref having seen the puck anywhere near and just kind of go, yeah, I think it was in, and then just resort to the call on the ice. Like, I do agree with Remo there that I think the process was a little off, but in the end, having said all that, I do think they got the call right. Like, I think this is a goal.
Well, it could have easily been no goal, been on the line, but they still called it a goal. They didn't see it. They had no idea. Were they reacting
no idea.
to
no
what?
Idea.
Were they reacting to the crowd? Were they reacting to the Ducks players pointing and saying it was a goal? I mean, Cole Perfetti shot it in Binnington's glove last year, saw his glove in the net, and Perfetti said, that's a goal, that's a goal. What, because the Blues fans weren't, it was at a road game and it was a home game for the Jets? Do they call that a goal and they go review? I just think the process was very wrong, very not what the NHL has done in the past. I don't think there was anything to overturn, but if they would have said no goal, I don't think there was enough to say it was definitively a goal. So confusing, but they did get it right. But I don't think you can say, well, they got it right. That's what we want, right? You want to have good processes that you can follow every time, so you're right more often than not.
I mean, we've seen it's so close in some of these plays that they need all the help they can get. I thought Jeff Merrick had a great idea. Like, how in the world is there not a secondary line inside the net that is the distance of a puck? And if any part of the puck touches that line, it's by definition in the net.
But then Huss, you get one of you remember the Adam Lowry goal against Colorado in the playoff spheres where it went like post, but in between the posts, the puck like went parallel behind the goal line. Like, it doesn't account for the puck, I guess, being on edge or being like
it wouldn't
sideways.
be 100%, but there would be absolutely
it would help last night.
There would be no downfall. Like it wouldn't take away from anything, and it would make a lot of situations a little bit easier.
Totally agree.
Anyways, they're going to be sucking on that. Like, how much trouble do you guys think the Oilers are in right now?
I think this takes away from the fact that the Oilers look slow. They're missing their centers. Their top 2 guys are injured. And the Ducks are blowing them out with speed and young talent. The Oilers, they're in real trouble here, not only in this series, but like moving forward. And it just makes you think of how many terrible moves they have done to destroy this team over the years. You know, starting with losing Broberg and Holloway, you know, for the offer sheets. You know, they make this lateral goalie move that didn't help them at all, trading away Skinner for Jarry. Like, they haven't fixed any of their problems. They keep trying to, and they just keep making them worse and worse. And you and I were texting, like, McDavid, like, is he regretting signing that 2-year extension for below market value? Like, how do they come back from this next year? They're up against the cap. They're trading away all their draft picks. I don't know, Huss.
The Jarry thing is crazy. Like, they ran Stuart Skinner out of town, who got them to the last 2 cup finals. Local guy, too. He had an expiring deal at the end of this year.
Yes.
They take on Tristan Jarry 2 more years at 5.3. Now,
That's
wasn't
half
bad.
of McDavid's discount
Yeah.
there. Tristan Jarry.
Jarry was on waivers last year. They could have had him for free.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
they're in a spot. I mean, they got to get it back to Anaheim with a win in game number 5. You know who else is in the jam? The Boston Bruins. How about the Sabres? The boys rolling in, the Blade Gang showing up in Boston, and the Sabres gang rolling out with 2 wins. That was an embarrassing performance. Like, of all the bad losses on home ice so far in the playoffs, that one's probably the worst. And man, did Jeremy Swayman let his teammates have it as he was getting the hook yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, so many giveaways by Boston, but credit to Buffalo for taking advantage. And you were wondering, how would these guys translate their regular season success, where you almost forget they were one of the top teams in the league after firing their GM to the playoffs. You know, had a bit of a suspenseful first game with the comeback. You lose game 2, but looked very good in game 3 and 4. So 6-1 win yesterday. And Buffalo, they're legit. And shaping up, if they win, will be a very good round 2 against, well, that other series that has been, you know, it's tough to say which series has been the best series of the opening round, but the Montreal-Tampa one might be up there.
Dallas, Minnesota. I mean, the win with the Wild coming back late in the 3rd period to tie it, winning in OT to get it tied at 2-2. I mean, it has been so good. They're not playing tonight. Connor, before we go, Pittsburgh got off the mat, got their win in Philly to get it back to Pittsburgh. Do they get this series back to Philly? And what do you think about this Golden Knights-Utah game tonight?
Ooh, yeah. I'll get to that Vegas-Utah game in a sec. But Pittsburgh back on home ice, you might think that's a good thing. But as we covered on last week's Winnipeg Sports Talk, they are wearing some brutal jerseys. So this is not a good thing. You look good, feel good, play good, and they don't look good. So I'm taking Philly tonight on that front. But no, Utah, we spent a little bit of time, Liz and I, on Sunday morning talking about Utah because obviously you see Colorado, President's Trophy, they swept LA, they look amazing. You watch Dallas, Minnesota, both of those teams look great. But Utah has Dylan Guenther, a 40-goal scorer who's 23, signed at $7 million for the next 7 years. Logan Cooley signed for 8 years. That extension kicks in next season. They have a top 5 prospect pool in the NHL. When you look at Scott Wheeler's rankings at The Athletic, like they are, to me, as big of a threat as some of these other teams when projecting the future and how the Winnipeg Jets stack up in the division. Maybe not this year or next year, but 5 years from now. Utah is absolutely up there. They have a ton of grade A prospects, TJ Ginla being the number 1 prospect in that pool. And hey, if they can go and beat Vegas in this series right now, like they're a threat right now, let alone 5 years from now. So they've been so impressive to me. Dylan Guenther just ripping one-timers from the left circle. That he's one of my favorite players in the entire NHL to watch. And you're not gonna have me feeling bad for the Vegas Golden Knights if the Utah Mammoth take care of business in the first round here.
Wouldn't that be wild? A Utah Anaheim Pacific Division final with the winner to take on Colorado and the winner of Dallas and the Wild?
It's funny. My brother, who follows the NHL very loosely, he's like, "What's the storylines in the NHL this year?" In a text, I'm like, "What? You want me to like go through every team right now?" Well, I eventually did have a blurb for every team, but I was like, the overarching theme is for me, you have some of these holdover teams like Colorado, Tampa, Vegas, but this year more, and Edmonton, but this year more than ever, you have these upstart teams making first appearances that we haven't seen in a while. Utah, first ever. Anaheim's back. Montreal, not their first time, but they're a team on the rise. And Buffalo as well. And will we see a new champion rather than the teams that have been there every year for the past couple? Or Dallas is a team that's been in the conference final a lot, but hasn't got over the hump too.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Colorado took care of business. Shout out to Kopitar. Amazing season. It was cool to see him go out on home ice in the playoffs. And of course, Tampa showed that they're still the team to beat. Although Carolina, I mean, RIP Sens never had a lead in the entire series. And as I think it was Don that mentioned, Brady Tkachuk has more podcasts started this year than playoff points. So
the Tkachuk memes over the weekend were a fun scroll.
Yeah, plenty of time to go do the show, guys. So that'll be good. Connor, great stuff. Look forward to catching up with you throughout the week as we get closer to the weekend. Folks, check out yesterday's episode of WST Sunday Live on the channel if you missed it. Connor, you take it easy. We'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Looking forward to another great week of playoff hockey.
Yeah, it should be good. We got Neil Smith coming up right away, former GM. I'm going to ask him, like, from a GM's perspective, when you have insanity like last night, I mean, are they getting any information, or are they just like the fans waiting to see what happens? We'll do that. Take a trip around the Stanley Cup playoffs with the guy with the Stanley Cup ring, Neil Smith, coming up next, and then Jeff Hamilton on Winnipeg Sports Talk.
Hey, Bob, you hear the news?
I can't listen to the news, Daryl.
This is different.
Oh, it's so negative.
Not this time. Manitoba's got these new jobs agreements. And when the government builds things like new schools and hospitals, they'll hire Manitoba workers first.
Really?
Creating good jobs with union standards and more apprenticeships for Manitobans. And we'll get rid of those out-of-province license plates on job sites.
Keeping our money working for Manitobans, eh?
You betcha.
Well, that's how it should work.
I knew you'd like it.
A message from Manitoba's Building Trades and Federation of Labor.
Spring into good times at Uptown Alley and eat, drink, and play at the most fun spot in the city. You'll enjoy 5-pin bowling, 10-pin bowling, a state-of-the-art arcade, and good times playing laser tag as well. And in addition, Uptown Alley features incredible food and drink options at their bistro. Pop down to Uptown Alley with your group or make it a party. It's the best place in Winnipeg for birthday parties for kids, teens, or adults, and an amazing spot for corporate events where you just simply pick your activities, any of your add-ons, what you'd like to eat, and the Uptown Alley staff takes care of everything else. For more information, go to uptownalley.ca, book a lane at 488-0000, or pop down and see him at 1301 St. Matthews Avenue. Got a move coming up? Lean on our friends and longtime sponsors at Rollies Transfer, the most trusted name in moving and storage in Manitoba. Now into their 7th decade with over 60 years of experience, family owned and operated. Head over to their website at rollies.com to find out all about their services serving Winnipeg and southern Manitoba. In the top right corner, you can click on Request an Estimate. Use the promo code WST for a special discount on moving services and moving supplies, and then simply let them know when you're moving, where you're moving to, and what needs to be moved. And the friendly staff at Rollies will turn it around quickly and get you a great quote to get you locked in for the white glove treatment that they've been famous for now for over 60 years in Winnipeg. For all your moving needs, make it Rollies Transfer, the most trusted name in the game. Find out more and request an estimate today on your next move at rollies.com. Has it been a minute since you've been to the dentist? If it is, our pal Doc Harry and the wonderful staff at St. Vital Dental Center would love to see you. They've been taking care of generations of Winnipeggers and Manitobans in St. Vital for years, and have now moved into a beautiful new facility at 167 St. Anne's with state-of-the-art equipment and convenient free parking right behind the building. They'll handle customers and clients from 6 months to 99 plus with a full array of dental services, from cleanings and checkups to surgeries like dental implants. Dr. Terry and the gang can absolutely do it all. We'll do it with a smile on their face and make your smile look even better than it's ever been. Go to stvitaldental.ca online to make an appointment. Pop into St. Vital Dental, get that girl taken care of, and tell them the boys at Winnipeg Sports Talk sent you. Truck Month is now on at GMC. If you want something reliable, tough, and ready for whatever the schedule throws at you, that's the 2026 Sierra 1500 Pro Graphite Crew Cab in a nutshell. And it can be yours today, and you can get a $6,000 cash purchase credit. With a factory 2-inch lift, off-road suspension, and a 5.3-liter V8, this is one ready for anything truck. Don't miss out. Get to your local GMC dealer and take advantage of Truck Month before it ends. So much to get to from the Stanley Cup playoffs on the weekend. Absolute pleasure to welcome in and back to the program Neil Smith, longtime former NHL GM and the host of the NHL Wraparound podcast, which you can find wherever you get your favorite pods. Neil, thanks so much for joining us on WST. How are you?
I'm very good, thanks. And as I told you last time, it's always good to talk in Winnipeg, where my mom is from, Fort Garry, the University of Manitoba. I heard about it all while I was growing up.
Well, it is great that you've got some connections to the city, and unfortunately, the connections between Winnipeg and the New York teams none of them are playing right now. But the teams that have been given us a lot. We almost have to start with what everyone is still talking, about 18 hours afterwards, the end of that Ducks-Oiler game last night. There's always lots of controversial goals, but man, when they happen in overtime with the stakes as high as they are, there's going to be some strong opinions on both sides. Neil, this is one that I think most people agree the puck probably went in. Some people might not be entirely sold on it. What happens with the general managers when something like that is happening? Like, imagine you're Pat Verbeek up in the booth. Are you just sort of watching like everyone else does? Do you get information from the league? How does that work?
No, you just are sitting in the press box watching like everybody else, particularly when you're on the road. And although he wasn't, he's in Anaheim in his home building. But, maybe he's running around looking at a bunch of different camera angles. But Toronto and the War Room have all the say in this thing, and combined with the referees, and there's really nothing you can do if you don't like the answer you get back. If you're, Stan Bowman, perhaps you're calling this situation, calling, I don't know, Colin Campbell or whoever, and arguing your point, but it doesn't really do you any good. Once they've decided it is a goal, then you can't take it back.
How much do you think the result of that was based on the original call on the ice? I mean, if they had called it no goal after the review, would it have been a goal in your mind?
I think so. And when I say that, I have no dog in the fight, and I'm not a Duck fan or an Oiler fan or any fan. But when I saw the puck under Jerry's skate, and I know the circumference of a puck, and I know that it couldn't have been on the goal line if that much of the puck was sticking out, and I saw where the goal line was, there's no way that puck wasn't over the goal line. It had to be over the goal line when you know the circumference of a puck. I mean, it's the same size as it was when we were little kids.
I thought Jeff Merrick today had a really good idea. You can see this. He suggested, why in the world does the NHL not have a secondary line behind the goal line that is essentially the size of a puck? So in a situation like this, you'd be able to see whether the puck is touching that line that by definition would have it over the goal line.
Yeah, well, that Jeff Merrick usually comes up with good stuff. I like Jeff a lot, so I can't argue that one. And maybe a faint little line that's exactly the width of a hockey puck. I'm not sure if the goal line is the width of a hockey puck or not, but I do know when I look at that picture right on my screen right there, there's no way that puck was not. I mean, you could take a compass and go around that puck and show that it's over the line. It's almost completely on the metal blade of his stick or of his skate. So yeah, and there's the stick of the Edmonton defender there that was going to push it right back under him, which was smart. But Connor Murphy was reaching in there.
Crazy to think that this team that are the back-to-back Western Conference champions are on the ropes right now, facing elimination, Neil, against this young upstart Duck squad.
Well, the one thing we've said about the Ducks all season is they can score, and they can score in bunches. They may not be able to keep it out of their net very well. They're not great defensively, even with Coach Q. He hasn't been able to put in a great defensive system, but they can really score goals. And this may be the worst team for Edmonton to play against, because you can't just run and gun with Anaheim and think you're going to outrun them in a track meet the way Edmonton tries to beat people. The other thing is Edmonton has not solved their goaltending situation in these years. Now, when Stu Skinner was there and they went to the final, and one year it was 7 games, and last year it was 6, I believe. Everybody said, well, their goaltending's not good enough. And I found that sort of astonishing, because Stu Skinner had played pretty well. But I think they got to a point where they just wanted to make a change, which I think is a bad move on their part. And they ended up trading Stu Skinner, who'd gone to the final 2 years in a row, for a guy who'd gone through waivers and was in the minors and back up again. And then they went out and got Connor Ingram, which is fine. But Connor Ingram also went through waivers, got bought out and tossed aside by Utah Mammoth. So they got 2 guys as their goaltenders for Edmonton in their run and gun system that both went through waivers. So they really don't have the goaltending. And I think if it comes up to Dostal versus those 2, Anaheim's going to win.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Dostal has really established himself as a pretty solid, regular, I would say top half of the league starting goaltender. And it's just one question mark after another in Edmonton. And you're right. I mean, he was such a lightning rod. It's like, they got there so close twice. They had to make someone the fall guy. And yeah, I'm sort of with you. I mean, we saw Jake Ottinger outduel Connor Hellebuck in the second round. And in the conference final, Stuart Skinner was clearly the better goaltender. That's why they got there the last 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, I know, and unfortunately, I think Skinner's an Edmonton boy. I think
he is. He's a local guy that got run out of town.
Yeah, I mean, and so now he finds himself in Pittsburgh, and I don't know. I just thought it was I don't criticize trades, because I know there's a lot of reasons for GMs making them. But I can't figure this one out. I just can't. I don't know why. And he also gave up a defenseman as well in the trade, who now is in Colorado with the chance of winning the Stanley Cup. So it just befuddles me. But we've got another game, and Anaheim has to win another game. And we all know how good Edmonton is, and Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl and Evan Bouchard. What did it take them 3 seconds on their power play to score yesterday? So we know how good they are, but it's going to be interesting to see if Anaheim can close them out.
They are up against it. Other night game in a series that has just been absolutely incredible. Tampa Bay Lightning, Montreal Canadiens. It's interesting. You can make some comparisons. I mean, the Oilers are the more accomplished, experienced team going up against a much younger upstart squad in the Montreal Canadiens. But credit to the Habs for going toe-to-toe. The first 3 games went to OT. Last night, they blew a 2-0 lead and lost it. How did you see Game 4 and Tampa sort of avoiding the disaster that befell the Oilers in a 3-1 deficit heading home?
Yeah, they avoided that, so they go home now to play a 2 out of 3 series with 2 of the games being in Tampa. I think we're going to get more of the same. I think the Canadians are going to come at them hard, and they're going to play very well defensively. They're going to be checking all their assignments, and Dobish has been very good, and Vasilevsky probably will win the Vezina Trophy this year. and Dobish has played head-to-head with him very, very well. So I think you're going to get more of the same. It's going to be a one-goal game, could be an overtime game, but I just think it's going to be tight. And these two, it's great hockey, but I got to tell you what, I wish it wasn't the first round, because I hate to see one of these two teams go down in the first round, and I hate to see one of Minnesota or Dallas go down in the first round. I just don't think it's fair. Having said that, this is a great series, and it's great for Montreal.
Well, I mean, that city was, no one does pregame ceremonies like Montreal. I mean, that was one of the most electric scenes I can remember before the Bell Center, and then to get up the way they did. But it's credit to Tampa. I mean, that's not easy to come back against a team like that in that environment. And they did, and it's been led by Brandon Hagel. I could talk about Hagel for an hour with you, Neil, about the path that this guy took. A 6th-round pick that didn't even get signed, and then the Blackhawks sign him, and 2 years later, Tampa's trading 2 first-round picks to acquire him, and, you know, we know the rest is history. The scarcity of players that have the skill and the talent to play at a high level, that also have that edge and compete level that we hear about. Is that maybe the most scarce and important resource when it comes to finding players to actually win in the NHL?
Absolutely. I mean, it's all mental, right? Hagel is strong mentally. He'll fight you. He can score on you. He grinds it out. He never stops. I mean, he is such an impressive player, and obviously has the will to win, and is not going to stop until he does, or you eliminate him. And he has just been fantastic for them. By the way, I also think that Gensel was great for them yesterday, the way he put his nose right into everything. And of course, who has more skill in the world than Kucherov? So they've got him going for them as well. But, you know, again, to go back to Marty St. Louis and his group with the Montreal Canadiens, boy, you got to give them so much credit for the way they're playing, and just really mind-boggling, the whole thing of how quickly Montreal has gone up to over 100 points in a season. And it wasn't that long ago that Montreal was a perennial out of the playoffs team, and now they're a strong contender.
It's funny you bring up Marty St. Louis, because of course he's a former Tampa Bay Lightning, an undrafted player that had, you know, that incredible career. Like, how does a guy like Hagel in particular, that has that edge to his game and is as good as he is, how does that guy fall to the 6th round? How does that guy spend 3-4 years before he really gets a chance to show that he's not just a player in the NHL, but a major difference maker?
You know, I think there's sometimes there's something that goes osmosis, that goes from scout to scout, or team to team, or management to management. Like, the guy doesn't skate well enough. He's, you know, he's this, he's that, he's some, whatever their criticism was of him way back in the draft year. And then I mean, we could talk about Devon Taves too, the same thing. I mean, let's put Hagel and Taves together, because Taves got overlooked at 18 and 19, didn't get drafted till he was 20 by the Islanders, and then had a tough time even becoming an NHL established player. They didn't give him the chance to get there. He was in Bridgeport for a long time. But going back to Hagel, I mean, I just think that, you know, you look for why the last guy didn't like him. Why didn't he make it? And it takes a very strong, open-minded person to say, no, I want to use all the best things that we can get out of this guy. I remember the Marty St. Louis thing very, very well. Very well. And I remember that Rick Dudley brought him to the Ottawa Senators training camp. He got cut there. I remember that he was playing for Calgary's farm team, and they let him go because he was too small, according to the Calgary scouts. And then Rick Dudley ends up in Tampa and signs him in Tampa. Rick Dudley was Marty St. Louis' rabbi, so to speak. He took him from place to place. And then Marty St. Louis, being the, you know, the bull in the china shop that he is, ended up proving everyone in the world that I'm big enough, strong enough, and good enough to not only be a player in the NHL, but be an MVP and win a Stanley Cup. And I got to tell you, to be honest with you, when Montreal made Marty St. Louis the head coach, I was flabbergasted. Here's a guy who hadn't coached in the league at any level, assistant or anything, hadn't coached in pro hockey, and they're giving him the chance to be the head coach of the Montreal Canadiens. Well, he's done it again. In his coaching career, he's done just what he did in his playing career. He's proven everybody wrong, that he is as good as he said he would be.
It's an amazing story. And I mean, yeah, he was coaching 13-year-olds. Now all of a sudden he rolls in and listen, the rest is history. And that team is definitely on the rise. Speaking of teams on the rise, I mean, you've been around the league for a long time. You ever seen anything like the Buffalo Sabres this year? I mean, the depths of where they were as an organization, people writing them off in early December. They were right near the bottom of the league. And then somehow turning it into a 50-win season, winning the Atlantic Division. And then after some early adversity, going in and blowing the doors off the Bruins back-to-back on the weekend to come one win from the second round?
I have never seen anything mid-season happen like this. It started in early December, and it's never let up. And, I mean, it is mind-boggling because everybody wrote them off in October and November, that this is all the same old Buffalo Sabres. Here comes year 15. You know, we've gone through 14 years of non-playoffs. Here comes year 15. And, suddenly they make the manager change, which I don't think had anything to do with why they started to win. I may be wrong. I'm not in their locker room. Maybe they all felt that they couldn't win with Adams as GM. And when Kekalainen got the job, then they all thought, okay, now we got a chance. So we'll play a lot better.
They'd won 3 in a row. They'd actually won 3 in a row at the end of that road trip, and they did it at the end of the road trip. They came back and just kept on winning.
Exactly. And they never stopped. And it's just been incredible to me to watch it and to watch Lindy Ruff behind the bench, because I'm old enough that my first New York Ranger team in 89-90, Lindy Ruff was playing for us. So I know Lindy from way back then. And to see him behind that bench with a team that who knows how far they're going to go. But that was the same guy that got them in the playoffs the last time they did it 15 years ago. And now he's back and he's doing it again. Now, they have a lot of talent, without a doubt. It just didn't come through until started, as you said, in early December, and really has never stopped. And this game yesterday was, my God, what the hell is Boston doing? You know, they were awful. And to the credit of the Sabres, they made them look awful.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Jeremy Swayman, I think, felt like all Bruins fans when he was getting pulled there and had a few words for his teammates. I mean, it was basically a no-show, and Buffalo now on a real roll. The way the Sabres are built, though, to be honest, is sort of playoff-like. I mean, obviously you've got, some high-end players like Tage Thompson, Alex Tuch, and he'll get into the corners, but even their small guys like Benson, Peyton Krebs isn't particularly huge. That Beck Malmsteen is a hit machine. They seem like a playoff type team, which is a little ironic because they, of all teams, haven't even sniffed the playoffs in more than a decade coming into this year.
That's exactly right. And the other thing they have is a really good back line, which you need to play well in the playoffs. They've got, 2 first overall picks on their defense. The one place where you thought they might be susceptible is in goal, but that's been good. I mean, whoever they put in there has played really well. They've got a goal scorer, pure goal scorer in Tage Thompson. So they've got everything. And I agree with you. Even the little guys like Zach Benson, who looks like he's 12 years old out there, goes around like a little fire plug, and you can't hurt him. You can't get rid of him. He's going to come back again and again. It's a very impressive group.
We had a lot of fun watching Zach as a young guy playing for the Winnipeg Ice here in his WHL days. And, considering the total package that he brings, if the size was the only concern about how he'd be able to hang in the NHL, he did it as an 18-year-old. And absolutely no fear. I mean, that is a real fun team to watch. And, man, you want to talk about a great story for a fan base and an area of hockey fans. Just imagine what that KeyBank Arena is going to be like in Game 5 with them coming back with 2 wins from the trip to Boston.
Can you imagine the number of Sabres jerseys that have been sold in the last 3 weeks, and the number of people that have jumped on the bandwagon in Western New York to support the team now that probably had no intention of supporting them 6 months, 8 months ago? But it's really good for Buffalo, and it's really good for hockey, I think, to get these teams to do what they're doing, to inspire other teams. For example, Detroit, if you're a Detroit Red Wings fan and you're sitting there going 9 years out of the playoffs now, what are we going to do? It'll probably be a 10th year. Well, look at Buffalo. They turned it around, and they turned it around in one season really quickly. Now, it took a lot of building to get to that point, but the Detroit Red Wings are right on the cusp, and that this Buffalo team should give them confidence that they can do it as well.
Neil, I'm not sure how much you've seen with the late games out west, but Utah, speaking of new teams to the playoffs, has shown that they're no easy out. How much trouble are the Vegas Golden Knights in right now in this series?
Well, I think they're going to tie the series up, Vegas. But having said that, Vegas has been inconsistent all year. I think they play in the Pacific Division, which I said was the pathetic division. And that's the reason why they hung on, even with their inconsistent play. Utah is a very young team, as you know, very inspired, a very supportive fan base now. I saw where they had over 1,000 people turn in their Vegas Golden Knights jerseys for a Utah Mammoth jersey. They gave you one free if you turned in a Vegas jersey. I thought that was a great promotion. But you know what? Utah's playing with no downside. They're not expected to win. And if they do, it's a huge bonus for them. So it's always a lot easier to play with no downside.
It kind of felt like that was the situation for the Philadelphia Flyers coming in. And listen, they were the better team for the first 3 games. Pittsburgh got the big win. Going back home, what are the chances that the Penguins and that veteran moxie gets them back in and really makes this series? Or is it just too big of a road to come back after spotting the Flyers 3-0?
I don't know that they can come back, but I do think they're going to force it to go back to Philadelphia. I could very well be wrong in that. I know that Philly beat them 2 times in Pittsburgh, but I think that group is going to want to win at home, led by Crosby, of course, who I have more respect for than anybody ever, and Malkin and Letang and Carlson and again, Stu Skinner in goal. The way Pittsburgh played in the first 3 games of the series, I said to my partner, Vic, I said, this is the Pittsburgh team that I thought we were going to see this season. A team that wasn't going to make the playoffs again, but they put together a lot of players, Anthony Mantha and so on. And that young kid, Kindle, has been great for them. They put together a group of players that had a great year, and they were back into the playoffs. So, you know what? I think they're going to win game number 5. But it'll be tough for them. And Philly better win either 5 or 6, because you don't want it going back in game 7.
No doubt about that. I've got to ask you about the other series that's still going. RIP to the Sens and Kings. But this Wilds Stars, listen, being in the Central Division and kind of seeing the way things are shaking out, we'd sort of been waiting for this for the last 4 months, Neil. And it has been the heavyweight battle that we have expected. Just thoughts on this series, and at 2-2 heading back to Dallas. I mean, who do you think has the leg up and actually making it on to play the rested Avalanche? We're going to have like a week off.
Yeah. You know what? It's, I think not having Zuccarello in the lineup hurts Minnesota, because I think he's an important piece to his teammates. Trennan is also important to the team and has been out as well. He adds a lot. But we've all known, as you just said, for months now that it's going to end up being Minnesota versus Dallas. We didn't know who would have the home ice advantage. It ended up being Dallas, but then Dallas gave that home ice advantage to Minnesota on a silver platter in the first game, 6-1 Minnesota. You know what? This is really a hard one to judge who's going to come out of this. I think Ottinger's been playing great, but you just don't know, right? You just don't know. If I had to, if you made me pick a team, I'd pick Dallas. But it's razor thin.
It'd be interesting to see if Rupee Hintz comes back at some point. I mean, the fact that the Stars have been doing this without their number one center just shows how good this team is and how deep this team is. But I'll tell you what, that Game 5 on Tuesday night, we know the numbers, 2-2 side series. You win Game 5, you got a pretty good chance of making it happen. Fun trip through the playoff matchups in round 1, Neil. I know you're doing that on almost a daily basis on the NHL Wraparound podcast. Fill people in on what you and your team have cooking and where people can find it.
Well, we did a fun thing with Craig Button, who you'd be familiar with on TSN, who does a lot of stuff. He's an old friend of mine, and we came in and had our playoff predictions for the first round, which is a lot of fun to do that. And so that's going along, and we're keeping that updated. But we're doing what we call cup dates every day about what games have gone on the night before and breaking them down and talking about them. And that's a lot of fun too, although you got to stay up late and keep your eyeballs open in
Tougher on the East Coast.
Yeah, it sure is. It is tough on the East Coast because, you get to that late at night in the game in Anaheim and you're on the couch and you're lying now against a pillow trying to watch it. But having said that, it's great to keep up NHL Wraparound. I really enjoy doing it. Vic Morin, my partner, is wonderful, does a great job. He was a producer, so he writes the rundowns. He gets everything ready to go and sort of is the host of the show in some ways. But I have a lot of fun doing it, and I know he does too, and we're very dedicated to it. So if you get a chance, anybody out there, give us a listen. We're on all platforms. And we're on YouTube. And we just like to see what you think and see if you like it.
We'll throw a link in the description for both the podcast and the YouTube. So make sure to go and check that out and give the guys a sub and a follow. Neil, thanks so much for doing this. Enjoy another great night of NHL playoff action. We'll look forward to doing this with you soon. Be well.
I love doing it, Andrew. Thanks for having me.
Princess Auto is a proud sponsor of Winnipeg Sports Talk in a lot of ways. Synonymous with Winnipeg, headquartered here in the Peg, founded here in Winnipeg, and now serving Canadians coast to coast with the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new is at Princess Auto. So while we wait for the Bombers to kick off, get ready for spring. Those projects on your list with great deals throughout the month waiting for you at your local Princess Auto, Panet Road, Portage Avenue West in the city, out in Brandon. And you can always shop online 24 hours a day at princessauto.com. Spring is just around the corner, and our friends at Chud's Power Sports up in Gimli, Manitoba's power sports superstar, are ready to get this snow out of here. But before we do that, great end-of-season deals on sleds and snowmobiles that you can check out. But as we get excited for the snow to leave, great preseason deals on motorcycles of all brands, the best in ATVs and side-by-sides, not to mention golf carts for the summer up ahead as well. And it doesn't stop there. Amazing RV options for you to take advantage of the summer, and so many options when it comes to boats as well, in addition to outboard motors from Suzuki and Mercury. The best deals in town. That's how they've been in business as Manitoba's power sports superstore for 80 years. Pop out and see him in Gimli at the corner of Highway 8 and 231, and shop online today at their website at chudspowersports.com. April and spring are here, and Donnie and the gang at Manitoba Battery are kicking it off strong. Spring Power event. Right now, you can save big on the batteries that you actually need this season. Lawn tractor battery starting at just $37.50. RV and deep cycle batteries from $69.50, and heavy duty power like Group 27 and 78 DT starting at $89.50. Need serious cranking power? Check out their 13-inch stud post battery, $94.50 while supplies last. All in stock and all priced to move. Visit Manitoba Battery on the north side on Logan Avenue, on the south side on Dovercourt Drive, and get powered up for spring at Manitoba Battery, powering what matters. Check them out online today at manitobabattery.com. All right, it is hammer time. Jeff Hamilton from the Winnipeg Free Press about to join us. This segment brought to you by your Prairie Toyota dealers. Right now is the time to get down and check out the Toyota Tacoma during Red Tag Days. Its standard I-Force engine boasts an impressive towing capacity of up to 6,400 pounds. In fact, it's the most powerful Tacoma ever. So whether you're hauling gear to the rink or heading to an away game, you can tackle it with ease. And when it's time to load up, the available power liftgate makes loading your gear in and out a cinch. Experience power, capability, and convenience with the Toyota Tacoma. Visit shoptoyota.ca or your local Prairie Toyota dealer during Red Tag Days from March through May. Jeff Hamilton, come on in. How are you, my friend?
It's good to be here, my friend. What a wonderful weekend it was. What a great week it's starting off to be. Just been so spoiled with NHL playoffs. It's kind of the sad time of the season for me because, with two sweeps, those we're still getting multi-game nights, but those are going to be slowing down here soon, and that's probably the only sadness in my life right now, which is pretty good.
How about yesterday? I mean, first off, congrats to the Moose. I did take in that game. Nice to see them get an opportunity to go up against really the standard this year in the American Hockey League. Great for the young players in the organization. But, man, starting off with Buffalo barnstorming Boston right through to that crazy end of the Ducks-Oiler game, it does not get much better than the 4-game slate we got rolled out last night, albeit the first two weren't really close. The second two games, just absolutely thrillers.
Yeah, my partner, she's not from Canada. She's from all parts of Ukraine. Anyway, I've kind of informed her that it's a Canadian ritual during the first round of the playoffs that, like, if you just lock in, it was a bit of a culture shock the Sunday, the Thursday through Sunday or through Monday NFL slate for much of the season, to bring this to her front step during a time where we're really busy trying to move. It's been a difficult conversation, Huss, but it's been again, like I said to her, this might be on your test, for becoming a citizen, so this is studying, if anything. Anyways, it's Christmas right now for everybody. I think, that first game, Huss, that one. I mean, you can kind of make sense of the Colorado LA game, and that one really got away late. So that score doesn't really tell the whole story, as they often don't in high scoring playoff games. But the Buffalo Boston one, that was. I mean, Charlie McAvoy. My brother sent me a message after. He loves it when players are honest after games. It's not always the case, and so he sees that kind of post game chatter from calling out his teammates, pretty much calling it an embarrassment, ultimately meeting the moment with the answer that needed it at that time, and just again, accountability. But that one stinks. But Buffalo, I think a lot of people are jumping on that Sabres bandwagon. I love seeing it. You love the energy, all the videos and clips that are inside the arena pale in comparison to all the action that's happening outside and in the stand. So yeah, it's you can tell the Buffalo's back, baby, and maybe there's going to be some lasting power here. I know we're still talking about a first round series that hasn't even concluded. But that excitement has just been pretty awesome. And then as you got further into the day, the Habs, I was kind of teasing you before, that was my team as I was trying to figure out, where my allegiances lied when I was in high school, as the Jets were no longer here, and through middle school. And so I landed on the Habs. I think I've said it on the show before, would go to a few games and whatever. So I'm trying to bring back my joy of rooting for a team. And I kind of did that for the first time this weekend, and bad timing, Huss. They went up real well. And then I mushed them. That was Brandon Hagel. We'll get into it. And then finally the controversy of last night's game. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I pulled pulled in the full shift. So I was sleeping by the time that controversy was unraveling, and woke up to all the chaos that, much like I'm sure many who didn't catch the game woke up to, and have my opinions and thoughts and feelings about the whole situation.
Well, when we're talking about the Buffalo game, just absolutely made my day, and it was great because I was watching that first period, needing to get to the Moose game, and I've been emotionally invested in the Sabres really since about the mid part of the season. Do have some futures on them for the East as well. So, but it was so nice. You get up 4-0, and that was basically done. You could just go to the game and not worry about it, and they took care of it. And man, the scene of those dudes on the rollerblades rolling through TD Garden.
Oh, good.
I mean, that's what's the definition of the saying? Walk into your trap and take over your trap. That's exactly what the Buffalo Sabres did on the weekend. So it is going to be fun. But
that's gutsy, man. That's gutsy.
Watching these playoffs from the perspective of what the Winnipeg Jets need to do to get to where these teams are right now, and that's competing for the Stanley Cup in the first round. And we've talked a lot about what has been missing. Certainly, they couldn't score. The trade at the deadline, we can talk about. I think it was a logical thing to do considering the situation that they're in. But the toughness level of this team is not even in the stratosphere of where some of these teams are.
Yeah.
And then, we're talking about changing up the roster and all of that. And we think about, okay, how can the Winnipeg Jets get to where they need to be? And you're going to need to hit on some guys. Like, not every top player right now is a top 10 pick in the NHL. If you got one, pretty darn good chance that they'll be there. But, you look at Brandon Hagel, and again, he keeps coming up because he's been the player of the playoffs so far, as a guy that was a 6th rounder, didn't sign, got an opportunity, go to the American Hockey League with the Chicago Blackhawks, and, listen, the rest is history. Tampa identified him, paid a big price to get him, re-signed him, and he is a mainstay in his team. But even closer to home, maybe the craziest thing about this Ducks-Oilers series for me watching it is watching Joel Quenneville throw out former Moose pseudo-tough guy Jeffrey Viel over and over again in the final 5 minutes of games that they're protecting a 1-goal lead. It's tied. And lo and behold, who's there with 4 minutes left tying the game up last night? A guy that we sort of remembered being sort of just toughness for the Manitoba Moose. Again, scouting, pro scouting, all of that is so important. But we're seeing the teams right now that have keen eyes for some of these guys to put them in the right situation to get them to thrive. And to me, I'm thinking about guys like that every night when we're watching the playoffs as to how the Jets can acquire a few players that, might not be household names, might be not even getting many headlines when they sign them, to come in and kind of create a whole that's much greater than the sum of the parts.
Holy, I didn't think you'd be taking the wind out of my sails so early in this interview, Huss. I feel like a big, long sigh, is in order. What exactly is the question you want me to identify in that? Is it ultimately, what does this playoffs essentially show the outlook of the Winnipeg Jets here and where they currently are and where they need to go? Because
the importance of identifying contributing players through non-traditional.
It's everything, Huss. They don't have another choice, and so through, whether that's acquiring players, right? Every team would love to look out and find that guy who they're just so sure about, and for some reason nobody else has identified that player, right? Like a Hagel, right? Like when to see what little bits of progress looks like, and to predict that progress will turn into something really special, right? Because all the other indicators, where he was in the draft, where a player is, with his own team, where he's been and where he hasn't been, that all plays into a role when you're trying to guess with players, right? You look at players who have 30, 40, that's what the Winnipeg Jets essentially tried to do. Now, mind you, it's a bit of a different situation, but tried to do with Gustav Nyquist. They tried to take, but that wasn't, what they didn't realize and what they didn't play out. And that ultimately led I guess, because they either thought Jonathan Toews was a legitimate second line centerman or just couldn't get one. You aren't getting Gustav Nyquist to do what he did in Nashville 2 years later without putting him in on a line with Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor, because that's all he played with the best players in Nashville. If your thought process is you're going to bring a guy who didn't play, or was going to go from a line with guys who are trying to find their guy to play with, and is all of a sudden that's going to work. I mean, that's just bananas. I'm not trying to pick on Gustav Nyquist here, but to your premise here, Hustler, like it's like identifying and putting guys into situations where they're going to succeed. You hear that all the time, right? You hear it from star players, you hear it from players who want a shot, you hear it from everybody in between, that they want to go, the best places to go are the coaches and the GMs that put them in positions to succeed. And that might sound on the surface level to be very simple, right? Oh, well, we had success, it all worked out. No, it's understanding the pulse of your room, the DNA of your room, the players that you need, right? The players that make you successful, the players that can, get into your systems, right? The Winnipeg works with issues and constraints that not a lot of teams work with, not as, at least not to the same degree. And we all know those restrictions, right? Finding top end free agents don't want to come to Winnipeg. Wasn't long ago they didn't want to come to Buffalo either, right? We'll see if Buffalo's success can change that. We know Winnipeg's didn't really alter it. They're not, a lot of players, especially with today's NHL, everyone's getting some form of protection, and we all know how difficult it is to get a player to waive that protection to come over to Winnipeg. So you have to kind of find out, you have to figure out where these players are, where these soft spots are, where players, and that's what teams are doing, right? That's what you heard the Jets talk about. You hear other teams talk about it. They're analyzing everybody's roster, right? They're looking at everyone's roster and they're ultimately predicting situations for each team. Is this team in a year or so, 2 years from now, going to be able to afford this player, and this player? Can we jump on them? Like, all that stuff's happening. And, we hear Kevin Cheveldayoff say things like, we're trying like hell to make trades. And, whether you believe him or not, I mean, I tend to probably believe that they're interested in adding to their team and trying to bring players on. I just don't know. And this is kind of my point here, Huss. And it was kind of the point of my question that I asked, Scott Arneal, and to a varying degree, Kevin Cheveldayoff, is the environment in Winnipeg suitable for somebody, whether they're a guy who can come into the fourth line role, once is making his way up the lineup, or you're bringing in a guy who you're going to promise ice time with. Like, they don't even break up Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor. Like, when you're looking as a potential, top six player, what at one point looked like it might be a pretty opportunistic situation to be in, feels like if you don't fit into that one position, that one slot on the top line, you're in tough sledding to be able to be in a situation, like I said, to succeed. Nobody is looking at Winnipeg's centerman depth. No winger out there is looking at him being like, wow, this is a situation I want to go to. So you have to rely on your draft and developing. You have to rely, and I'll add this, Haas, like, fair or unfair, you have to hit. Like, you can't afford not to hit. Like, there's some teams that can afford not to hit. Unfortunately, given all those reasons I just mentioned about the Winnipeg Jets, they're in an unenviable situation where they have to hit. And if you're not hitting there, you need to be whether that's draft and developing, which has seemed to fallen off a cliff for this team, or that's trying to acquire players through trades, which didn't work out last season, didn't work out this season. We'll see if it can work out this offseason. If you don't have somebody who can get that job done, Haas, I think you need to look and ask yourself, is there somebody else who can do it?
Yeah, and listen, I don't know the answer to this. But the question that for sure is being kind of evaluated right now, and they're looking at every level of the operation. Like, the Moose had a nice win yesterday, and that was truly like the Moose identity. I mean, running four lines, playing in tight games, to use a Mauriceism, being comfortable, being uncomfortable,
right.
Not having a lot of finish, certainly a commitment. And I'll say this, for a team like the Jets have been a team that has been defense first. You win the 2 back-to-back trophies. I mean, they certainly have that plan going on right now. You would have liked to see a little bit more offense from some of these players. But, I think about some of the guys that are on that team right now. And like Samuel Fagemo that scored yesterday, like 2 years ago, he had 43 goals in 50 games with the Ontario Reign. there are other players. David Gustafsson would be there, Shaw, DiGiuseppe, and these are just the veteran players, never mind the young players on that team. How different would have things been if maybe a guy like that had gotten a chance in the Nyquist spot for 2-3 weeks earlier in the year? I mean,
Or Mason Shaw or any of the other guys that were contributing throughout the year. If anyone ever went to a Manitoba Moose hockey game, those were the guys who were getting the job done.
Yeah, early on, it wasn't the young guys at all. Now, what was great development at the end was Barlow scored in 4 of his last 4 games. I mean, Jaeger looks far more comfortable and confident at this level than he did in the first couple months. And, you can sort of expect all that. But I guess what I'm saying is there's obviously the scouting, the drafting and developing and what you're doing when they're here. But I would argue that maybe as important, and this goes to the VLs and the Hagels and all that the Winnipeg Jets on a pro scouting basis, whether they need another couple bodies in there or just more resources to that. In the situation the Jets are in, that you're not going to be able to doing a lot, with free agency and all of that at a certain level. But if you can be a leader in the league in kind of figuring out guys that will work with yours, pitching them on better opportunities coming in and having them take that step with you, that is something that's almost imperative for a team like Winnipeg to do. And as I said, I'm not sure where it would rank, like what the Winnipeg Jets commit to pro scouting and those sort of things compared to other teams. I know from talking to Murat, I certainly don't think it's more than others, but there's unique challenges to this market. And as they try to rebuild or at least fill out this roster, I would love to see, I think everyone, it goes without saying, you'd love to see them get a few hits on guys that kind of are available and have some good reclamation stories, if you will, or guys that get their first shot here in Winnipeg and make the most of it.
Yeah, and I mean, that's I think, has to be the approach, Huss. I mean, outside of, obviously the draft and potential trades. I mean, you need to identify players who fit within your system. And if you look at the players who left last year, and again, we can revisit that whole offseason, but, losing a guy like Nikolai Ehlers, losing a guy like Mason Appleton, losing a guy like Rasmus Kapari, even guys like Brandon Tanev, who you picked up late, like you lost speed. Right. And you lost scoring, obviously, there. And then, you didn't add enough speed and you didn't add enough scoring. So the unfortunate part is, you need to kind of find maybe some of those reclamation projects, or maybe the guys who just, with given a bit more opportunity, have the potential to really blossom or have those breakout kind of seasons. Right. The Jets needed to hit on some of those guys. They needed to hit on a few. And now the pressure is even higher because you're not working with the you're not working in a summer where you're just coming off the President's Trophy, winning season, and you beat St. Louis in the first round, and you just want to tinker a little bit because you believe you're there, to beat the Dallas Stars in that second round this year, right? You don't have that, even though it was a disappointing end of the season, it was still very much like family, right? It was a family situation. Obviously, Mark Scheifele was going through the death of his father, all those things. It was almost kind of like, and we talked about this, it was like a weird, uplifting, good feeling ending to an otherwise disappointing season. And so like you had kind of that, like the Jets looked like a team that you wanted to be a part of. I don't know how you make that argument. I don't think the dressing room was ripping from the seams, but all those players who want to win a Stanley Cup or who have a decision or choice on where they want to go, I don't know if that's going to be here. And that's unfortunate. But that being said, there's only so much money to go around the NHL, and the issue here, Huss, and I know this is the focus. We hear it on all the shows and everything, and we've heard this for years. You need to get a centerman. Like you desperately need to get a centerman. Otherwise, and I'm not saying otherwise you just got to tear it all down, but if you're going to keep going year to year and not being able to find a player who can service that position, and again, at the same time, Huss, like this is what makes this summer to me so interesting, and why I, when we talked post Kevin Cheveldae off, like not really understanding where exactly his mind was, right? He was a little more accountable in the results of the season, but you didn't get this feeling that maybe, where's his mindset with some of these players? Like, are you still going to expect anything close to what you got a couple years ago from Nino Niederreiter, from Vlad Nemestikov? Like, those guys aren't going to get the job done this year. And now you're hoping for, like, you hope, Huss, that, like, that Adam Lowry is being considered more for a fourth line, roll the four lines. I know he's not going to be doing that. He's probably going to end up on the third, but he can't be your second line centerman, right? So whether that's Cole Perfetti, who probably isn't NHL ready to be a second line centerman at this point in his career, unfortunately, or somebody else, or figure out what that looks like. That's going to be the biggest hole, because when you look at these teams in the playoffs, you look at the depth in the playoffs. That's another thing, Huss. You touched on it before. The Jets need to get tougher. I know I know where the NHL is moving, and obviously, I'm not saying you're bringing in a bunch of meatheads or whatever, but you need to be physical. You need to be tough, especially if you're going to have some of your star players going around and dancing. Everyone knows that you just throw the top line off their game with some physicality and some rough stuff, and it can derail your opportunity to win. You need to have that player in the mix as well. So there's a lot. While the Jets have some major pieces that already in place, Connor Hellebuck obviously starts there. Josh Morrissey, a Norris candidate, perennial here, Norris candidate guy. He's you can build around that. Mark Scheifele, again, he's getting up there in age, but he's aging like a fine wine. If he can move into a second line centerman, then you're looking for the first. So whether it's Brandon Yeager, other options here, Huss, that's the part that's really from a media perspective, from my perspective, who doesn't really have any stake in the game. It's hard to look at this team and be like, are they going to be much better than last year? And what is this team going to do? Continuing to believe in this core and to invest in this core without finding those players. But that's the beauty, Huss. Every time we really put Kevin Cheveldayoff back against the wall, and I'm not trying to give him a ton of praise here, but like, he's always done his best work when it looks like he's screwed. So I would end it with this: the Jets look like they're screwed. So maybe this is the situation or the summer where the Jets really find something, and maybe we're laughing about this in a year.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if they can get, like, I'm just thinking about the Ducks right now. I mean, obviously they've got Leo Carlsson, brilliant player, number one center, young player. Well, who's in the two hole for them? Well, it's Michael Granlund, who was a free agent pickup. He played in Dallas last year. They couldn't afford him. They signed him to, I think it was a relatively short deal, and got him in there. Now, is it overpaying for a player like that can come in and at least hold it down for a couple of years as you hope a Yeager or another draft prospect turns into that? I mean, I think that would be the best case scenario, something that's a little more of a sure thing. But if you look at this forward group right now, Gustav Nyquist is gone. My gut tells me that Jonathan Taves isn't back based on what we heard from him. Then you have, so that's two spots. Then you've got Nito Niederreiter and Vlad Nemestikov, who both have 1 year left on their deals. But I think, to your point, the team would be well served to potentially see if there's a landing spot for those guys, if there's anything you could get for them. Because honestly, without any sure things coming in, I think the best thing that this team could do, and that really did not happen this year, is have legitimate open competition for some spots on the roster. And unlike this year, if you get that spot and you do nothing for 2 or 3 weeks, guess what? There's another guy coming in to take that job. There's a bunch of areas they need. Like, they need to get a bit quicker. They need to have some edge. You need to have some guys that change the identity, I think, a little bit of this team. But at the end of the day, when you have that many things that this team sort of is looking for to improve that group, bringing in a bunch of players that maybe are betting on themselves, that believe in opportunity, that need to establish themselves as NHLers, and have a legitimate, fair competition, not just, hey, a couple guys are hurt, you're going to get 10 games, and then I'm telling you right now, you're going to the Moose, would be a way that I think could put this team in a much better situation culturally, as well as long-term going into next year.
Yeah, I think that, I'm under this belief, Huss, if you're one of the bottom teams, then it's open competition, right? Because you're trying to figure out, usually in those situations, the contracts dictate that, right? Guys are moving, you get opportunity. It kind of starts early. And then that also should exist at the top of the level. And it was like that for the Jets for a bit. They would bring players into an environment where they could flourish. And that's kind of what I was getting at before. And now, where do the Jets find themselves now? Like, can they do that? Are those options available? We've heard We know the names that are down there. We know the stats that existed this year with the Moose. No one was Kyle Connor, right? Nobody was, Jack Roslovic before that. Nobody was, Adam Lowry before that, right? And it feels like, Kevin Cheveldayoff believes there's a certain way to do it. And I'm not saying that that's wrong, right? Like we've heard him say it, we've heard others say it. They don't want these guys to come up and be NHLers for weeks. They want them to be NHLers for years. But the fact of the matter is, that's not really where the NHL is trending. Players aren't entering the NHL full-timers at 23, 24, 25. If you could work out a perfect situation where you could season your guys in the AHL and they come in and replace it at perfect times, yeah, every team would sign up for that. But that just doesn't exist, right? So that's the part that I think that the ideology needs to change. And I'm not saying it needs to be flipped on its head and it needs to be a free run for any AHL players to just kind of not have to earn their way up, but you kind of need to figure out what you got in some of these guys and let them come up, take that experience and bring it back, bring them into the room. This is the other part, Huss, and this was my question, to Arneal. And I'll be honest, a bit of my concern, I've said it on this show, I've said it, to Kevin Cheveldayoff and to Arneal, that we're kind of moving into that Jets second version of Jets 2.0, where the leadership core is older. How susceptible are the leaders of this team, the aging veterans of this team, going to be to usher in a new group of people who, like it or not, are going to need to be the face of this organization, not in 4 or 5 years down the line, but 1 or 2 years, right? They need to be given that opportunity, and we've seen it. Those guys were kind of held off a little bit. Now there was a couple of years. Do they bring that culture into the next wave? Because you're looking at Anaheim, San Jose, all the exciting teams, right? If you're not an established team who's a perennial playoff contender, whether that's Carolina, Dallas, all those other teams who have no problem with any of the things that we've talked about here, whether that be through trades or signing free agents or whatever, then you need to do it a different way. And so and I just wonder if the situation is going to warrant that. At what point in time is the core going to turn over? Are we just going to be doing much like we've seen the general manager of this team, just have the core kind of go on until it falls off a cliff?
Yeah, well, as I said, now, I don't know whether it'll be the bargain bin or the NHL's version of a garage sale, to use something that you're quite into, or, maybe paying a bit of a premium on a middling asset. But the bottom line is that, the adds to this roster and hopefully legitimate competition when we get into training camp will make for a better, more competitive team, and also a very interesting offseason. Hammer, great stuff. Any just quick thoughts before we go? We're going to talk NFL draft with Josh in just a second. CFL draft tomorrow. Do you have any mocks done already for the event tomorrow?
Yeah, just dusting off my fourth mock version here, but you're going to have to hold on for the rest of the day because I'm not teasing it here, Huss. No way it's going to be. No, you know what? To be honest with you, man, I love covering the Canadian Football League. I've done it for years. President of Football Reporters of Canada for several years. I check out of the draft. So, ever since Faith Akakidi went first overall, and I went through that whole thing of writing a big feature on him and yada, 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 just for it to kind of end the way that it did. There's a funny story on that draft night. I actually was the first person to call him on that draft night. He thought I was Mike O'Shea when I called him. Ever since then, I just kind of pulled off a little bit. But I know there's others out there that'll do it. I think the Bombers obviously picking fourth, their highest pick, in quite some time. I'm probably looking towards the O-line. With this club, this team needs to rebuild that area. Obviously, they might even go 3 Americans there this year. So that's how kind of thin they are. We'll see what Tui Eli can do at center if he can figure out in training camp. I know they've been waiting for him for a couple years. So with Colin Kolinkowski out, sorry. It gives him the opportunity, but he hasn't cemented that job. I just think they need to bring in more of that Canadian depth. That's probably where they're going to go. And I heard there's a pretty good kid in Manitoba. I'm not teasing that. Maybe he goes earlier. But certainly the Bombers are going to be more active, if you will. I think than maybe previous drafts where they felt pretty good about where they are.
Well, they got their second rounder from before Elgersman to the fold, so that's a nice start. And we'll see what happens tomorrow. We'll be all over it this weekend.
No Pavia news, or what is it? What is the guy?
Diego Pavia. I'm going to ask Josh about that. He is undrafted.
Is that
Heisman
a real
Trophy
story? Is that a real
finalist.
story? I saw. You never really know anymore these days when you see photos on social media and stuff. And he said, did he really say F the NFL? I write my own story. Was that
one? No, I think that's fake.
Okay,
but what's not
you just don't
fake,
know what you're reading anymore.
What's not fake is he said that if he won one of these games this year for Vandy, that he would let Theo Vaughn go on a date with his mom, which basically did happen because we saw a thing of McAfee bringing him on, and Theo Vaughn was at his house with his mom. So a very polarizing and interesting draft
I don't know
prospect.
much about him. I know you're going to get it with Josh. Is there legal, because everyone's comparing him to Johnny Manziel. Is he is that it's the antics that bad? Because everyone also says he cares more, he works harder, he's more dedicated to the game. But has he got the rap sheet that Manziel had in the sense of legal troubles? Is he is he a jerk? Because if he doesn't have that stuff, bring that attention to the CFL. We can the 3-down game could use that. Keep that stuff out of crap out of the community kind of stuff. But a guy who isn't afraid to make a headline, we beg for them in the CFL. So would be amazing. Would be incredible.
If Pavia ever came, and just so I should preface this, he's been on the Bombers negotiation list since 2024. So they've identified this guy for a while. We're wondering whether he was going to get a chance. He goes to Vanderbilt, which has been basically the worst SEC program forever. They beat Bama. They win 10 games. He's a Heisman finalist. But every single thing that he does, the way he conducts himself, is basically the antithesis of FIFO, if you know what I'm saying.
Okay, fair. So not exactly, doesn't exactly scream a Mike O'Shea guy. Okay,
no,
gotcha.
There would be, but his talent screams CFL star if he ended up coming here. So I'm going to ask Josh about that coming up. Hammer, have a great one, man. We'll talk to you soon, pal.
Yeah, always a pleasure, guys. Have a good one. We'll talk to you next week.
There's the Hammer at Jeff K. Hamilton on X. Listen, just before we bring in Josh, folks, it is time to get your tickets for the Tri-Hospital Dream Lottery in support of the St. Boniface Hospital, the Health Sciences Center Foundation, and the Children's Hospital Foundation of Manitoba. You will have, if you win the grand prize, you'll have your choice of 6 grand prizes, 5 dream home packages worth $1.7 million, or the biggest grand prize ever, $1.35 million in cash, tax-free. But get your tickets now because you'll be in for much more than just the grand prizes. 43 early winners, more than $400,000 in bonus and early bird prizes. And you can also get on the Extra Cash Plus, which is 125 winners of over $170,000. The entire lottery is the biggest ever. $2.3 million available to be won. 1,550 prizes, with the granddaddy of them all, $1.35 million. And again, it's all in support of Manitoba's 3 major hospitals, the HSC, the St. B, and the Children's Hospital. Go to tryhospitaldream.com right now. Get those tickets. If you'd like to get them in person, you can do so at London Drugs or your local Red River Co-op location. But it's on right now. You'll be eligible for all the bonuses and early bird prizes. So get those tickets today at tryhospitaldream.com. Had a good shift with some of the fellas at Boston Pizza on the weekend watching football. Shout out to our friends at BP Taylor. Great reno. Awesome new TVs behind the bar. Appreciated that. And I did get to dive into the playoff menu, which has some amazing options. Wing flights are back, pizza flights. We got the MVP platter. And, of course, the games with sound on all the big screens. Looking for a great spot to get together with your gang tonight for the NHL playoffs? Make it your local Boston Pizza. And again, you can always order online at bostonpizza.com. All right, let's bring in our pal Josh Frey Sam into the program. NFL draft on the weekend. Josh, what's up, buddy? Great to have you back on the show.
Hey, what's going on, fellas? You got me all right? You can hear me all right?
You sound great. You sound
awesome,
great.
Man. Awesome. Yeah, I've been well, man. Been much better spirits these days now that the sun is shining. I was actually able to get out for my first 18 of the season on over the weekend. Just at Kildonan Park. It's nice and close to me, but me and the boys, that's kind of the home track for us these days. Yep. But it's nice to get out there, man. And now, honestly, I will say, because sometimes I spoke with the city. I did a story on the golf courses last week, opening up and when everything's supposed to open, and you know, sometimes you hear some of the general managers and stuff like that talking like, oh no, it's beautiful, oh, the course wintered very well and it's dry and all that, and then you get out there and you're like, oh, what is this, you know what I mean? It's all muddy. Actually, I will say I was actually quite impressed with the shape that Kildonan Park was in. The Killer was in great shape and was relatively dry compared to what I had seen courses on Tuesday. I went on Saturday, and I checked out Shooters on for just 9 on Tuesday, and Shooters was a little bit muddy. I'm sure it's better now, but even just those days of the nice weather that we had made all the difference, I think.
How was the shot over the train bridge?
I got it over the bridge. It's never really an issue for me to get it over the bridge. It's just if it gets on the green, you know, if it's a pull, if it's a hook, if it's a, you know, we'll see. This one I actually thinned. I tried to hit down on a 9-iron, just take it down a couple notches there, and I instead bladed it, and it tailed off over the green. Ended up, I think I made 3. I think I made a 3 on that. Went up and down there,
take
but it was.
Take your par and move on to the
that's right.
drink cart. Josh, listen, I may as well start with this right off the bat because we'll get into, you know, who you liked and who we're kind of scratching our heads about. But I tweeted yesterday this Diego Pavia went undrafted.
Yeah.
Didn't even get a contract offer right afterwards. He's apparently accepted an invite to the Ravens mini camp. Now, that might be a great spot for him. They've only got Lamar Jackson and Huntley on the roster right now, so at some point they'll be adding a quarterback. This is a guy that apparently is somewhat radioactive to NFL teams, that you're that talented, albeit small, and didn't get picked. And it would take a ton of humbling for this guy to come north of the border, especially when you make what you make as an SEC quarterback. But are you of the opinion that's shared by me that if this guy went to the Canadian Football League, could be one of the most electric players we've seen for a long, long time?
No question. I mean, like, he kind of fits the bill. As soon as, I mean, me and my buddies have been joking about it for a while now throughout the draft process of, you know, Diego, like, we were kind of kidding at first, like Diego might go undrafted, but to see him actually go undrafted was like kind of a, whoa, okay, that's interesting. This guy's a Heisman finalist and this guy goes undrafted. But we've been joking for quite some time now just about the fact that, yeah, this guy would be great. He fits the build of a awesome CFL quarterback, and he obviously knows he has a knack for making plays outside of the pocket, extending plays off schedule. He can run a little bit. And so, I mean, this guy would be electric in the Canadian Football League, no doubt about it. But as you mentioned, so I think that's kind of the big thing, is whether or not his ego would let him come north here. I think that maybe he goes UFL first, or see if he can make something happen down there first, and then he can maybe see if he can come up here. Or is it the XFL? Is that? Am I thinking UFL or XFL?
No, it's called UFL now.
UFL, yeah. Sorry, I got my leagues mixed up here, but yeah, UFL. See if he can make some hay in the UFL first. But I think that, as you mentioned as well, if there is a spot to land, it would be with, even if it is just as a camp arm, for him to go into Baltimore and be able to maybe potentially see if he can impress enough in rookie camp. Maybe he can see some preseason snaps, get his name out there, show that he can compete at that level. That would be substantial for him for sure, especially on that roster with Lamar Jackson probably not getting a lot of preseason time and him being able to come in fourth quarter and spell Tyler Huntley. But yes, if Diego Pavia made it to the CFL, I think he would be worth the price of admission for sure. And even though, I mean, Johnny Manziel had his little stint here, and Johnny Manziel was a big ego as well, and he managed to find his way up here. But so who's to say that Diego can't? But I mean, this is a guy, as you guys were just talking about with Jeff, like, this is a guy who definitely he believes in himself a lot. Yeah. And but at the same time, you know, you can't go away with, everybody thought that the post on Instagram was real because of what he has done in the past, man, because of the voters.
Very believable.
You know, and it was just, you can't go saying that stuff, man. But anyways, I digress. Yes, I think that he would be awesome in the Canadian Football League. He'd be awesome to watch, but I think that we see him start UFL first. I just don't really see him in the NFL, but I hope I'm wrong.
I'm sure he, like many guys, will exhaust the year to see opportunities, but like Elgersma and other players that, I mean, at a certain point you got to play. And if your college eligibility is done, there's not a lot of places to do it. And again, he is just tailor-made to it. Let's get to the top of the draft. Mendoza to the Raiders, number 1 overall. There was no suspense. How big of a moment was this for the Raiders? Or do you think this guy will end up being, a second contract, 10-year Raider, and a guy that at least takes this team from obscurity to competitiveness, in at least in the few seasons?
Yeah, no question. I think that this guy, I think this is what you want in your question. Did you watch the video of Fernando Mendoza's draft call and hear what his ringtone was? It was like the little, like it was just like a classic dad phone ringtone, man. And it was like, this is the guy you want as your franchise quarterback. You don't want something crazy playing as his ringtone or nothing like that. You just want the kooky,
business.
All business, man. He fits the bill for what you want in a franchise quarterback. Now, yes, is there certain things in which Fernando Mendoza does? Is he the most talented quarterback prospect to ever come out of college football or even in recent memory? No, he's not. But he definitely has enough in his bag, in his toolbox that, along with, let me emphasize this, the fact that he is going into a organization with Tom freaking Brady, who is going to be overseeing everything and helping him out along the way. That is absolutely the right situation for him to succeed. And let's also keep in mind, I like the fact that I hope the Raiders stick to it, that they do not rush him in, that they do not play him right away. I believe as soon as they signed Kirk Cousins, that meant that Kirk would play, at least the first month of the season. And then we'll see from there whether or not Fernando can get in. I hope that they stick to that plan. Don't rush him in. They know that they're not competing for a Super Bowl. And the Raiders overall, he's going into a much better situation. I might have told you something different 365 days ago if he was coming into the Raiders situation then. Now, with the new head coach, obviously Clint Kubiak there, they've got the new management, it's a new day in Las Vegas, along with they have made this roster substantially better this offseason. I think that Fernando Mendoza is in a much better position to succeed. I think we'll see the much better version of him.
Josh,
to start off his career.
We love our fantasy football. The second offensive player off the board went at number 3, Jeremiah Love to the Cardinals.
Not good.
Yeah, not good. This is a team that needs everything, especially on the offensive line. What is this going to be detrimental to his possibility of succeeding as an NFL star? And did they blow the pick by going there when they have so many other needs?
Well, yeah, like I don't like to necessarily bash picks. The only time that I bash picks is literally in this circumstance where there is a clear way that you are trying to build up a roster. And there, in my opinion, yes, there's more than one way to skin a cat, and there's more than one way to build a roster. But there is certainly a very select few ways to not build an NFL football roster. And to me, that is starting with the running back position. I mean, we saw Saquon Barkley get drafted to the Giants. Well, that worked. I mean, sure, awesome player during his time there, aside from some of the injured seasons. But he's not there anymore. He's not there anymore. Bijan Robinson's another one, right? And Bijan Robinson goes to Atlanta. Atlanta's hasn't done much since he's been there, and Bijan's been outstanding, of course. But Bijan Robinson, it's clear that the running back position is the position to get you over the hump. The running back position is the position that once you have things in place around you, then you throw in an awesome running back in there, or you go get a guy off the free agency wire, whatever you want to do, to go and complement everything else you got, like the Philadelphia Eagles did with Saquon Barkley. And lo and behold, he rushes for 2K and they go win a Super Bowl. This to me is not the way that you go and build an NFL roster. Now, Jeremiah Love, yes, are people going to, for dynasty purposes, I feel bad for the people who are in dynasty fantasy football leagues, because at the 101, you have to pick Jeremiah Love. And quite frankly, he's going into a situation in which, yes, is he going to be the number one running back? Sure he is. But he also have Tyler Algier, who you just paid. You have James Conner, who restructured a contract to come back as well. Where's he going to go? And he's a veteran. He was expected to be the number one guy. Yes, injury history, and then you also got Trey Benson as the fourth running back now, who, by the way, the Arizona Cardinals drafted not very long ago to actually be, they drafted him in the third round to be probably the heir to James Conner, and he was going to be the next guy. And he had some injury troubles last year. And now he's obviously, I would have to guess, traded at best, probably cut after the preseason's over. And then maybe James Conner is cut as well. So just kind of a very head scratching move, because this is not a defense that's in a position where, you can lean on them and you can run the ball. Jeremiah Love, it's not an offensive line that's going to open up a bunch of holes for him so that he can do his thing. This is an offensive line that needs work. They have Jacoby Brissett as their quarterback. I don't know if Jacoby's going to be able to repeat the kind of stuff that he did last year. Who knows? They have other weapons around him. The pick just doesn't make, I understand that they wanted to pick the best player on the board. To me, Jeremiah Love wasn't the best player on the board. It was Caleb Downs, but I understand they wanted to pick the best player on the board. But this is just, I said, there's certain ways, there's just very select few ways to not build an NFL roster. And I believe they're following down this path. Is he going to be, by the time we have to ask the question, is Arizona going to be relevant and be able to compete in the next 4 years? Maybe they will. But by that point as well, is Jeremiah Love going to be, man, he's going to already have a lot of tread on the tires. Who knows? This is a guy that you need to draft. And again, this is a guy that you need to draft when you are ready to make that jump.
Maybe it's the long play by the Cardinals. They're going to get Jeremiah Love. They're not going to handle their O-line or anything like that, just to ensure themselves pick of the crop for the quarterbacks next year. And then maybe they can get a few tackles and keep it going on. Big picture, it sounds like, and I was giving Connor a hard time earlier before we went on, he's a Niner guy. Everyone seems to hate the Niners draft. They seemingly reached at every spot for the guys that they were taking. So they're getting hammered. But when you just look at the entire league, who should maybe be in their offices today being the happiest of the job they got done on the weekend? And was there a team that you thought blew it?
Yeah, so for value picks that I loved Caleb Downs at going to Dallas. Dallas trading up for Caleb Downs at 11 was unbelievable. And listen, the one thing that I hate is giving teams grades. I hate seeing the draft grades come out. I get it. It's good content. People engage, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But you don't know what's going to happen with you. But having said that, I am very, very confident that Caleb Downs is going to be an excellent NFL player and potentially an all-pro caliber kind of guy. He is this guy. You listen to Nick Saban and Ryan Day, obviously Saban being the former Alabama head coach and Ryan Day being the current Ohio State head coach. You hear them talk about Caleb Downs. They give different stories, but both stories end up at the same point, and that is this guy probably would have been ready to play in the NFL as a sophomore. And so the fact that he's coming out now and he's dropped to 11th overall pick says something. I think that I think he's going to be outstanding for Dallas. And Dallas, on that note, had an outstanding draft for me because Jerry Jones is funny. We all expect him. We don't know what Jerry Jones is going to do at any given moment. No. I wouldn't have been shocked if he went and picked a wide receiver in this draft, the first round. Let's be real here, right? But Jerry Jones did a great job of sticking true to what the Dallas Cowboys needed to actually be a better overall football team this year. And he went out and he obviously got Malachi Lawrence later on in the first round with that pick that belonged to the Green Bay Packers that is now Micah Parsons. And so they go into draft, but they dress the defense completely. Other really great drafts, Cleveland Browns and the New York Jets. The Jets hit on pick after pick for me. There's a lot of picks that I really enjoyed with the Jets. They obviously started off with getting David Bailey. They go and add weapons in Kenyon Sadiq, Omar Cooper Jr., and then they go and get on the defensive side of the ball, D'Angelo Pons right after. And then they actually in the fourth round go and get Cade Klubnik as well, who I didn't mind as a potential quarterback there filling in. So I like the Jets a lot. I like the Cleveland Browns, what they did. Both had a ton of picks, and then the Dallas Cowboys as well. As far as the coolest moment that I actually penciled down right here in my notes here. Coolest moment for me was second round, Avion Terrell, the cornerback out of Clemson, who joins his older brother AJ in Atlanta.
Are they still hugging?
They might be. They might be still hugging.
That was the longest draft hug of all time.
And coolest thing about that too is they're both from Atlanta. So you got brothers who are from Atlanta playing in Atlanta. Both went to the same college. Now they're joining each other. That was definitely the coolest moment for me. But I'm curious about how that kind of plays out. And then also the one thing I'm really curious about to see as well is Caleb Lomu, who is the offense tackle from Utah, went to the Patriots late in the first round. I'm curious, he played left tackle at Utah. Now, does he flip over to the right side where the Patriots have the need? Or as we talked about after the Super Bowl, does Will Campbell bump inside to guard where he probably belongs? And then Caleb Lomu kind of fills in there at left tackle. So I'm really curious to see how that plays out. Maybe we can ask Diana Rossini if she can get any kind of insight on that for us. But those were kind of my big takeaways from that.
You mentioned Rossini. God, the funniest thing that I saw, and like I think most people know, ahead of the new pictures that came out, Vrabel they did a release or whatever at like midnight the night before. He's gonna go to counseling, and it was gonna be on. He's going to miss day 3 of the draft because he needs to be at counseling with his family, which was just bizarre. So Mike Vrabel's priorities: draft day 1, number 2, draft day 2, number 3, family, number 4, draft day 3. So there you have it right now. Hey, listen, the Chiefs went defense. They got Mansour. They traded up. Everyone thought that the Saints were going to grab him. I mean, they needed to replace McDuffie. They get an edge rusher whose first name is R Mason, which is amazing. But from a fantasy perspective, this guy, the Chiefs running back Emmett Johnson that they took out of Nebraska, 1,400 yards, 12 touchdowns, broke more tackles than Jeremiah Love. I love Peter Schrager. He had something on this guy last week that said, this is my favorite prospect in the draft. And then the Chiefs go and get him. And a really fast receiver out of Cincinnati, too, at the end. So we'll see first things first, they were trying to fix the defense. But a couple of pretty intriguing players late. And that's the cool thing about the NFL draft is that, you can be a 6th rounder, you can be a 7th rounder. Guys in those spots contribute in their draft year all the time. We just don't know it at the time they're picked.
Big time. I don't know about you, Huss. Maybe you follow I obviously follow the Chiefs, but just as a general fan. But you follow them. You're in on all the beat writers and stuff like that. How surprised were you that the Chiefs didn't address the wide receiver position this offseason? I'm curious, just because given what Rashee Rice is going through. They obviously there's a lot to be desired beyond him as well.
Well, exactly. There's no doubt about it. I think they need to be better. I had almost resigned myself to the fact that they would go with one, even if they didn't really feel like it was the right time to pick them because of the need. Yeah. But I was also sort of convinced that Rashee might have just boneheaded his way out of the league. He's apparently got the full green light of whatever was happened has been investigated, and that's not happening. So he's got to come out and show that he's not a liability to the organization, but a big-time playmaker. And we'll see. The guy that they got from Cincinnati, I think, is going to get a chance right out of the gate. And they did have a couple young receivers they picked last year that were with the team.
Jalen Royals might get one guy.
So, and you often see guys, they work in the system, they play a little bit, and then the next year they're sort of ready for prime time. So it'll be interesting. As I say, we'll have plenty of conversations over the course of the couple months, both CFL, NFL, hitting some pigskin. But man, fun to read all the reactions from around the league once you get all the picks made.
There was the only other thing that we didn't talk about is the Ty Simpson pick. Which by the way, I will say, Ty Simpson's my guy in this draft. Him and Drew Aller, the Penn State quarterback, those are two my guys in this draft. I was very happy to see Ty Simpson go as early as he did. I actually had Los Angeles trading back into the first round for him, but instead they picked him up at 13. Nevertheless, what did you think about Ty Simpson? Because I loved it.
I was blown away, and I think big picture, for a team with a 38-year-old quarterback, it makes a hell of a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But I will admit I was stunned just in that they seem to be ready to win right now. And there was a hell of a lot of talent on the board when they went and picked him. And then, you saw the press conference afterwards, and it looked like McVay was not really that in a great mood. Now, he's said, no, that was just not the case at all. They wanted this guy. So it's a great spot for him. And I mean, man, to learn with Sean McVay and Matt Stafford, I mean, I know a lot of athletes are impatient. They want to get in there. But listen, he's getting paid like the 13th overall pick in the draft. And you never know. With injuries, he might be playing sooner than anyone expects right now. So pretty good insurance policy. But at the same time, felt like maybe a little bit of a luxury pick as opposed to a team that was going to do everything they could to try to raise the Lombardi this year.
Yeah, no question. That was the definition of a luxury pick. No doubt about it. Yeah, I liked it through and through personally, but yeah, I can understand some people wanting to see the win now kind of pick for sure. But I actually also like Les Snead's explanation of it, in that being, next year, obviously everybody's hyping up the 2027 class and the quarterbacks are in that class. The Rams don't think that they're going anytime soon anyways, that they're going to be in that kind of position to pick. To be in the 13th overall pick or higher again, to get one of those quarterbacks. So why not, while you have that pick of obviously courtesy of the Atlanta Falcons, why not go get that? Why not get that done right now? But I liked it.
Josh, great stuff, buddy. Thanks for doing this. Keep up the great work over at the Freep, and let's catch up soon.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you guys for having me on. We'll talk soon.
Right on. Josh Frey, Sam, Winnipeg Free Press, the Back Bacon Brief, must read for all of you fantasy wonks like myself out there. Great to have Josh on the program today. All right, we got to get to the cool bet lines. Big night tonight in the National Hockey with a couple more games. We'll get to that coming up in just a minute as WST continues. WST would like to thank our friends at Cleanline Plumbing, Heating, and Electrical for their support of Winnipeg Sports Talk throughout the Jet season. When we're doing the Winnipeg Jet lines, we do it with the gang at Cleanline, who are the leaders in Winnipeg residential and commercial plumbing, heating, and electrical services. Your one-stop shop with over 40 years of experience. And like the captain, Adam Lowry has the back of his teammates, Cleanline has yours with 24/7 emergency services. So when you're in a jam at any time of the day, Cleanline has you covered. 204-500-2001 is the number. Write that one down, 204-500-2001 for 24/7 emergency services from the official plumbing service of the Winnipeg Jets. You can find out more online at cleanline.ca. Spring is here, and it's time to get down to Winnipeg Sports Superstore Royal Sports at 750 Pembina Highway to get ready for it. The bike shop is open with incredible selection of bikes, including e-bikes that you'll want to check out. Of course, baseball season is here, all the equipment ready to go for the season, and tons of Toronto Blue Jays merchandise. All the soccer players are getting loaded up with the best selection of boots and unis around, not to mention tons of World Cup merch of Canada and the rest of the world just in time for kickoff. And for all you NFL fans, the draft is coming up in just a couple weeks. The NFL draft hats are all up on the wall, and for the first time in a while, they're actually really nice. So you can pop down there, get ready for spring, the World Cup, the NFL draft, Blue Jays season, and more at Royal Sports. 50 years plus, family owned and operated at 750 Pembina Highway. Much more to come on WST, but first, a big shout out to our friends at Winnipeg's favorite local brewery, Little Brown Jug.
You train day in and day out, learning new techniques, approaching new concepts, and living out the thrill of achieving your goals. Building a craft beer is no different. While you spend your hours on the ice, we spend ours here, brewing our trademark beer. Again, and again. Here's to pushing the status quo and challenging ourselves to build something memorable. 1919 by Little Brown Jug.
All right, good stuff with our pal Josh. Hey, I do want to shout out our friends at Aikens Lake. I'm looking forward to getting out there at the end of next month. If you're looking into an unbelievable world-class fishing experience where you can be on the water in less than 2 hours from the city of Winnipeg, including the flight, Aikens is the spot. Check them out at aikenslake.com for more information on the availability for the upcoming fishing season. And hey, for our Breezy Bend golf report today, how about the Fitzpatrick brothers at the Zurich Classic? This is one of the more lower events, if you will, in the PGA schedule where they play with partners. Unique event, but what a story. Matt Fitzpatrick with a stone cold chip out of the bunker to tap in range. He and his brother win the tournament. And now Matt Fitzpatrick's brother, Alex, gets a 2-year PGA Tour card with the victory. So Matty, who's got 3 wins in like the last month now on PGA Tour, is going to have his bro with him, who's already won on the DP European Tour this year. Great story for brothers on the PGA Tour. Wasn't a great week for the Canadians. Top Canadian finisher was AJ Ewart, T20, with South Africans Casey Jarvis, Svensson, and Hadwin. 1 shot back, T26. BreezyBend.ca if you want more information on the upcoming golf season. Think about making Breezy one of Winnipeg's top private courses your long-term golfing home. BreezyBend.ca, 895-7205. Reem, I was chatting with some friends yesterday about the demise of the Senators, knowing that Matthew Tkachuk was already going to the World Championships. I assume that brother Brady will be joining him. Do you think, and this why not question of the day for Not Autocorp at Waverly and McGillivray to everybody in chat, will the World Championships have a little bit more juice this year because of the result of the Olympic Games, or will it still be very secondary to everyone paying attention to the Stanley Cup Finals because of the best of the best are still competing for the most famous trophy in the game?
That's a good question. I think now that we have this international calendar for hockey, the Olympics, they're back, World Cup, and you've seen GMs say, hey, you said no to the Worlds. I'm not taking you for the Olympics. Now, there's certain players that, could be the exception, but you saw them, GMs prefer it. I think maybe you'll see some, more significant players say yes, and you're not going to have the declines and guys say, hey, I want to play on these other teams. I got to say yes to this. So maybe we'll see World Championships. I know it's huge in Europe. It's big among all the European countries.
I think Canadians traditionally didn't pay much attention. I got to think that with the team that we're sending and the fact that there will be, the Tkachuk brothers amongst others on Team USA, this will be one that we'll want. Some nice new additions to Team Canada, by the way.
Yeah, well, we already know that Mark Scheifele's been asked, Gabriel Velarde, and Dylan DeMello from the Winnipeg Jets. So there's that Jets content here, which will be exciting, I think, during the day. We already know Jet Greaves over the weekend announced as goaltender, John Tavares, Ryan O'Reilly, and Robert Thomas. So, this is a very deep team down the middle. But Darren Dreger putting out this morning, Canada's added some big names to the roster. Macklin Celebrini.
Let's go.
Gavin McKenna and Matthew Barzal. Also Morgan Riley. So this team, very strong team right now. So I'm going to be tuning in. I have the game scheduled in the Winnipeg Sports Talk calendar. So I think it'll be fun during the day. I'd like to see them take home a gold medal. So I think this is exciting.
Yeah, I'm with you. And listen, you'd rather your team was in the playoffs and not available, but I'm really happy for Velarde in particular. I'm happy that Mark Scheifele said yes to the opportunity, and it'll be really cool for Dylan DeMello to get a chance to play as well. Doesn't sound like Josh Morrissey.
Well, did you hear the news about Josh Morrissey?
No.
Oh, he's about to become a dad, so that's why he's not going.
Oh, I gotcha. All right, well,
I think they put out some kind of birth.
Family first. He's known Mike Vrabel.
I think they put out some update on him, unless it was from Facebook, but I'm pretty sure he put out a picture.
Yeah, and that's his first kid?
Yeah, first time dad for Josh.
Yeah, so he's probably not going to be able to just have it and then run for a month out to the
No,
Worlds.
you got to be in the trenches. You can't just bounce.
I mean, you can bounce in the regular season when you have a schedule.
Well, when you have a schedule, this is like a volunteer thing. Yeah.
You know what? Like, I mean, can you imagine if it was like Game 7 of the first round?
Well, I mean, that's been a thing where guys do take time off for the birth of a new child, or guys leave home to be with the birth. So,
Game 7 or the birth of your first child? Secondary, why not question of the day.
Family first. Family. I know they say the team is like a family, but it isn't your actual family.
That's a tough call. That is definitely a tough call. All right, let's get to these games tonight over at Coolbet. And the Oilers, such an idiot. I had great picks all weekend and 2 perfect cards that were ruined by the Oilers in the late game in both of those games in Anaheim. Tonight, it's Philly and Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh minus 131 favorites to extend their series. And then how about this one tonight, Remo? Utah, even money. Vegas, minus 117. Very close to a pick'em in this VGK Utah game. And you know that Delta Center is going to be rocking, as I'm sure will Pittsburgh after the Penguins brought that series, dragged it back to the other side of the state.
Yeah, and Utah, again, it's kind of like Anaheim, this young team. We got, Dylan Guenther, Logan Cooley's making an impact. This veteran defense, though. Sergachev, Uyghur's a nice deadline end. Stanley Cup winner Nate Schmidt on the back end. So, hey, a lot of Jets. I don't think we mentioned, I forgot to mention Mars. I don't think we mentioned Roslovic on Edmonton. Did we last week, where we talked about our Jets in the playoffs? I made a point of mentioning Anton Forsberg, who never played a game.
Yeah, it was Myers and Roslovic just because they've been gone for a while and they're more.
Yeah, they're.
By the way, how about VL last night again? Like, Joel Quenneville is putting that guy out in huge situations every game late, like winning up a goal, down a goal, even. Jeffrey VL is out there and then obviously scored that massive goal last night. He had Dusty on tilt on Friday night on the EST post-game show after Game 3.
Well, I've taken after you. I know your favorite pastime is when a team has a devastating playoff loss to tune into the post-game show. And I was tuned into the Edmonton post-game. They're losing it just because, back-to-back Cup finals, and this team has just been slipping away. Everyone's injured. They're looking outmatched. And yeah, Jeffrey VL would have never guessed that he would be one, scoring multiple goals in a playoff series in the NHL, based on what we saw here. Yeah,
it is wild. That wasn't the guy that we saw here, but cool to see him do it. Over at Coolbet, series prices for the series that are still alive. Boston is 10-1 to come back against Buffalo. Buffalo's minus 2,000. Dallas and Minnesota's back near a pick'em. Dallas minus 120. The Wild even money, plus 100. Game 5 tomorrow night. The Oilers plus 340. They need to win the next 3 games to move on. Anaheim minus 455. Pittsburgh was 10-1, down 3-0. They're now plus 530. A little bit short of a number with the 2 games at home. Tampa Bay, with their win last night, is now up to minus 185. Montreal plus 153. Utah, a minus 164 favorite in their series. If you like Vegas to win tonight, now might be a good time to get on Vegas at plus 135. So yeah, 6 series left, Reem. And I should also mention and give a shout out to the Raptors, who won again yesterday. They've tied up their series with Cleveland. And despite being tied at 2, Raptors still almost 3-1, plus 290. Cavs minus 385. Scotty Barnes coming up big for the Raptors on the weekend. But locally, the big story was the Manitoba Moose, Remis. And We'll have a lot more Moose content this week as we get closer to Saturday and Sunday, 2 p.m. for games 1 and 2 of the Calder Cup playoff series.
Yeah, so tickets are on sale for that right now for the Moose. So Saturday, Sunday, pack it. Like 5,000 people there yesterday.
Fun crowd, really fun crowd.
That's awesome to see. So congrats to them on advancing. And yeah, we'll hear more from the guys this week and a number of guests coming up as well.
Yeah, looking forward to getting a few of the players on. T. Konopali will try and get your guy Bauer back. He was a beast yesterday. And I'm hoping to get David Gustafsson on. We haven't talked to Gus this year, and man, he was awesome yesterday, doing a little bit of everything for the Manitoba Moose in their win over the Grand Rapids Griffins.
Here's the Josh Morrissey photo shoot, by the way. Did you want to see?
Wow.
Did you want to see?
Yeah, absolutely.
Is this news?
Shoot.
I saw it on Facebook. Photographer
it's on Facebook,
put them
it's
out there.
news.
Well, Facebook, there's so much garbage out there that's AI generated, but Ali Papko Photography, local photographer, putting these photos up. So that was April 19th. So I wasn't imagining it. So I imagine Josh and Margot Morrissey will not be taking in the Worlds.
When did people start doing these pregnant pictures? Is that a recent development, or have people always done that?
I think people have always done that.
Is this more like an Instagram age thing?
But now people put them on Instagram. I think you do like like we did baby. My wife and I did not. My wife hated being pregnant like every second, so this was not.
Didn't have any glamorous.
There was no glam. There was no glamour. There was no glamour. Being pregnant was a curse. It was horrible. So
I just want to see some of the pictures just with you and like those awkward photos, like the hugging.
We did like
lady and like putting your hands on the belly.
We didn't do that.
Smiling,
I asked her,
knocking, not hello.
Yeah, I asked her she wanted to do one and as a joke, I think, and she was just like, F no. But we did that for the engagement photos where you do that, or wedding photos, or like we did like baby photo shoots after the baby was born, but not we didn't do the pregnant ones. That wasn't for us.
Okay, that was just a question. Anyways, enough about baby.
I went for too bad.
Let's get to what people really want. Ray OG. That's exactly what I'm getting to.
That's a real question.
Enough baby photos. Any thoughts on the sucker punch in Ottawa last night, Remo? Ridley Gregg knew a public enemy of the game after he disrespected it.
Yeah, like some of this stuff is such garbage. Like you can't. This isn't like a movie where you have one guy put another guy in a headlock and someone tees off. So I don't know where the line is us, because so often
that was way over it. I know that.
Yeah, this doesn't get called. So like, I guess he tried to go up against it, and that was a miss. But you see so much stuff. I can't get too mad. Like, I see Marcus Foligno out there doing stuff for Minnesota. I remember there was a scrum, and he went up to PLD and suckered him in the back of the head. Nothing happened. So I don't know. I'm not like, you could pick out something from some scrum after every whistle and say that's over the line. I mean, this was pretty egregious, but I don't know. I wasn't like so outraged. I feel like you could pick something on every play.
I think this is a real fire alarm.
Oh, is that actually? Okay. Oh, this is not a test?
I don't think it's a test. It's still going. I got to bust out. Great show, everybody. Thanks to our sponsors. Thanks to our guests. We'll see you tomorrow on WST. I'm out.
Oh, my God. Oh! Shut it down. Let's go home. Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.